What if the kind, folksy grandpa of investing, the man who eats McDonald's for breakfast and drinks 5 Cokes a day, is just an act? What if the image you've been sold is the most powerful weapon in a ruthless game of wealth and power? For decades, we've seen Warren Buffett as a symbol of simple, honest investing. He's the Oracle of Omaha, a living legend who built a $100 billion empire on common sense and patience. But what if that's only half the story? What if the real secrets to his success aren't the ones he shares in his famous shareholder letters? What if they are darker, more calculated, and hidden in plain sight? We've been told to buy what you know, to be fearful when others are greedy, and to be greedy when others are fearful. It's simple, clean advice. But behind these feel-good quotes lies a playbook of strategic moves, psychological tricks, and financial engineering that the average person never sees. This isn't about his favorite stocks or his market predictions. This is about the 30 secrets he has perfected over 70 years, the very rules he uses to dominate the market, build his fortress of wealth, and ensure he always has the upper hand. Today, we're not just looking at the investor, we're dissecting the master puppeteer. We are opening the book on the real Warren Buffett, and by the end of this journey, you will never look at him or investing the same way again. Chapter 1. The Secret of Doing Absolutely Nothing. Imagine you're in a room, and in the center of that room is a big red button. Above the button, a screen flashes with stock prices, news headlines, and expert predictions. Every time a stock goes up, the button glows green. Every time it goes down, it pulses red. You're told that you can press this button 20 times in your entire life. Each press represents a decision, to buy or to sell. Only 20 punches on your ticket for your whole life. What would you do? Would you press it on a whim? Would you use up your chances in the first few years, chasing exciting trends and reacting to scary headlines? Or would you treat each press as the most important decision of your life? This little thought experiment is the key to understanding Warren Buffett's first and perhaps most powerful secret, the art of doing absolutely nothing. In a world that screams at us to act, to trade, to react, to hustle, Buffett's greatest strength is his almost superhuman ability to sit on his hands. This isn't just patience, it's a deep, profound, and strategic inactivity. He calls it lethargy bordering on sloth. To the outside world, it looks like laziness. To him, it's his most powerful weapon. Let's travel back to 1988. Buffett, through his company Berkshire Hathaway, starts buying shares of Coca-Cola. He's not just dipping his toe in, he's diving in head first. Over the next year, he invests over $1 billion, buying up 7% of the entire company. At the time, this was a massive bet for Berkshire. The stock market had crashed just a year earlier in 1987, on a day known as Black Monday. People were terrified. Panic was in the air. Investing $1 billion in anything, let alone a simple soda company, seemed like madness to many. But Buffett saw something different. He didn't see the fear on Wall Street. He saw a timeless product. He saw a company that was basically a royalty on thirst. People all over the world knew and loved Coke. It was a simple, wonderful business. So he bought it. And then the first secret kicked in. He did nothing. For years, he just sat there, holding his Coca-Cola stock. Now, think about what happened over the next decade. The world went through enormous changes. We had the Gulf War in the early 90s. The internet was born, leading to the dot-com bubble. New technologies were emerging that promised to change the world. Financial crises hit in Asia and Russia. Through all this chaos, all this noise, all this temptation to sell Coke and jump on the next big thing, what did Buffett do? He did nothing. He just kept holding. By 1997, his billion-dollar investment in Coca-Cola was worth $13 billion. He made $12 billion by simply sitting still. But the story doesn't end there. In 1998, the market got shaky. Coca-Cola's stock price, which had soared for years, suddenly dropped by almost 30%. Financial news channels were filled with experts saying the magic was over. They said Coke's best days were behind it. They said Buffett had finally made a mistake. The pressure to sell was immense. Imagine having a stock that made you billions and then watching a huge chunk of that profit vanish in a few months. Your friends, your colleagues, the entire world is telling you to get out before it gets worse. Every instinct in your body would be screaming, sell, sell, sell. This is where the secret truly shows its power. Buffett didn't even flinch. He didn't sell a single share. Why? Because he wasn't playing the same game as everyone else. They were watching the stock price. He was watching the business. Were people still drinking Coke? Yes. Was it still a globally recognized brand? Absolutely. Was the underlying business still strong? Yes. The stock price was just noise. The business was the reality. So he continued to do nothing. And of course, the stock eventually recovered and continued to make him a fortune in dividends year after year. This secret of doing nothing is built on a foundation of incredible discipline. Buffett has said, the stock market is a device for transferring money from the impatient to the patient. He understands that human nature is his biggest enemy. We are hardwired to act. We feel smart when we're busy, when we're clicking buttons and making trades. Sitting still feels like we're missing out. This feeling is called fear of missing out, or FOMO, and it's the reason most investors fail. They jump from one hot stock to the next, always chasing yesterday's winners, paying fees and taxes with every move, and slowly bleeding their accounts dry. Buffett's secret is that he has engineered his entire life to fight this impulse. He doesn't have a stock ticker on his desk. He doesn't watch financial news all day. He famously lives in Omaha, Nebraska, thousands of miles away from the frantic energy of Wall Street. He spends most of his day, even now in his 90s, just reading. He reads annual reports, industry journals, and books. He is not looking for a reason to act. He is looking for a reason not to. He is gathering information to build such a deep conviction in a company that when the market panics, he feels nothing but calm. He compares investing to being a baseball batter. But in this version of baseball, there are no called strikes. You can stand at the plate and watch hundreds, even thousands of pitches go by. You can wait for the perfect pitch, that one fat, slow pitch right down the middle of the plate. And only then do you swing. In investing, the pitches are the thousands of companies you can invest in. The media, the analysts, your friends, they're all screaming, swing, you bum, at every pitch. But Buffett knows he doesn't have to. He can wait for that perfect business at a perfect price. It might not come for years, and he's perfectly okay with that. This is a secret Warren Buffett hopes you never learn because it's the complete opposite of what the entire financial industry wants you to do. The industry makes money when you trade. They make money from commissions, from fees, from activity. They want you to feel like you need to be constantly adjusting your portfolio, constantly chasing the next hot tip. They sell complexity and action. Buffett's secret is simplicity and inaction. It's a secret that, if truly understood, would put a lot of people on Wall Street out of job. It reveals that the key to winning isn't about having the fastest computer or the most complex algorithm. It's about having the emotional discipline to sit in a room with that big red button and simply refuse to press it. Chapter 2. The secret of buying a business, not a stock. What do you see when you look at the stock market? Do you see a list of names and symbols on a screen? Do you see blinking numbers, green and red arrows, and lines wiggling up and down on a chart? If you do, you're seeing what almost everyone else sees. And according to Warren Buffett, you are seeing it all wrong. This brings us to his second great secret, a fundamental shift in thinking that separates him from virtually every other investor on the planet. The secret is this: he never, ever buys a stock. Instead, he buys a business. This sounds simple, like just a different way of saying the same thing. But it's not. It's a profound difference in perspective that changes everything. To most people, a stock is a piece of digital paper that you buy hoping someone else will pay you more for it later. Its value is determined by its popularity, by the mood of the market, by the mysterious forces of supply and demand. It's a popularity contest. But to Buffett, a stock certificate is not a lottery ticket. It is a tiny slice of ownership in a real, living, breathing business. It's a piece of a company with factories, employees, products, and customers. To truly understand this secret, let's go back to 1972. Buffett and his partner, Charlie Munger, were presented with an opportunity to buy a company called See's Candies. See's was a family-owned chocolate company based in California. It was famous for its old-fashioned, high-quality chocolates and its black and white stores. The family wanted to sell the business for $30 million. Buffett's initial reaction was that the price was too high. The company had physical assets, its stores, its factories, its equipment, worth only about $8 million. The other $22 million was for something you couldn't see or touch: the brand name, the customer loyalty, the reputation. This was what accountants call goodwill, and at the time, Buffett, who was trained by the father of value investing, Benjamin Graham, was extremely hesitant to pay for it. Graham's method was all about buying companies for less than the value of their tangible assets. It was like buying a dollar for 50 cents. Paying a huge premium for an invisible concept, like a brand name, was not part of the plan. But Charlie Munger pushed him. Munger saw that See's was more than just its assets. It was a beloved institution. For decades, when people in California thought of giving a box of chocolates for Valentine's Day or Christmas, they didn't just think of candy. They thought of See's. That name, that brand, was a powerhouse. It gave the company pricing power. They could raise the price of their chocolates every year, and customers wouldn't mind. They would happily pay a little more because they trusted the quality and loved the tradition. This mental monopoly was the real asset, and it was worth far more than the $22 million they were asking for. Buffett eventually agreed. They bought See's Candies for $25 million, and it turned out to be one of the most important investments of his life. Not because it was the biggest, but because it taught him this secret in its purest form. Over the years, See's Candies has generated more than $2 billion in profit for Berkshire Hathaway. All of that from an initial $25 million investment. And they did it without needing to invest much additional money back into the business. It was a cash machine. This is the core of the secret. When you buy a stock, you ask questions like, what will the stock price do next month? Or is this a good time to get into the market? You're focused on the wiggles on the chart. But when you buy a business, you ask entirely different questions. You ask, is this a good business? Does it have a durable competitive advantage? Do I understand how it makes money? Is the management team honest and capable? And is it selling for a fair price? Notice that not one of those questions is about the stock market. They're about the business itself. Buffett spends his days trying to understand the business, not trying to predict the market. He reads the company's annual reports going back years. He wants to know its history, its failures, its triumphs. He wants to understand its economics, as if you were going to own the entire company forever. He has a famous concept he calls the circle of competence. This simply means he only invests in businesses he can fully understand. He famously avoided technology stocks during the dot-com bubble of the late 1990s. Everyone was making a fortune on companies with .com in their name. Buffett was called an old fool, a dinosaur who didn't get the new economy. He was mocked on the cover of magazines. But the truth was simple. He admitted he didn't understand how these tech companies would be making money in 10 or 20 years. He couldn't confidently predict their future. Since they were outside his circle of competence, he simply stayed away. When that bubble burst and trillions of dollars of speculative wealth vanished overnight, Buffett's simple, boring businesses were still there, chugging along, making money. His discipline to only buy businesses he understood saved him from ruin. This secret, buying a business, not a stock, is what gives him the courage to act when others are frozen in fear. During the 2008 financial crisis, the entire banking system was on the verge of collapse. People were terrified. Stock prices of even the strongest banks were plummeting. It felt like the end of the world. In the middle of this chaos, Buffett made a $5 billion investment in Goldman Sachs, one of the most powerful investment banks. He wasn't buying a stock that was crashing. He was buying a piece of a dominant, essential business that he believed would survive and thrive in the long run. He knew that the world needed a functioning financial system, and Goldman Sachs would be a key part of it. He got incredible terms on his deal because he was thinking like a business owner, not a panic stock trader. He was providing capital when no one else would, and he was rewarded handsomely for it. The financial world doesn't want you to think this way. They want you to focus on the ticker symbols and the charts. They want you to believe that investing is a complicated game played by experts. But Buffett's secret reveals the truth. It's not about charts and algorithms. It's about understanding what makes a company good. It's about being a business analyst, not a market analyst. When you buy a tiny piece of a wonderful company, you don't have to worry about the daily mood swings of the market. You just have to be right about the long-term future of the business. It's a secret that turns the chaotic casino of the stock market into a calm, logical, and profitable partnership with great American companies. Chapter 3. The Secret of the Two-Har Pile. Imagine you walk into the office of the world's greatest investor. You expect to see a wall of computer screens, blinking with data from every market on the globe. You expect to see phones ringing off the hook, analysts shouting, and a frantic storm of activity. Instead, you walk into Warren Buffett's office in Omaha, and you see a quiet room. There's a desk, some books, and maybe a can of cherry Coke. And on that desk, you would find 3 trays or piles. They are labeled in, out, and too hard. This simple, almost childish filing system is the key to his third, and perhaps most underrated, secret: the power of the too-hard pile. The secret isn't about what Buffett chooses to invest in. It's about what he chooses to ignore. His genius is not just in finding the winners, but in his ruthless and immediate dismissal of almost everything else. While the rest of the world is drowning in information, trying to have an opinion on every company and every new trend, Buffett's primary goal is to say no. Let's look at how this works. An investment idea comes across his desk. It could be a hot new tech company, a complicated financial derivative, or a business in an industry he's not familiar with. The first question he asks himself is simple. Do I understand this? Not could I understand this if I studied for 6 months? But do I, right now, with my current knowledge, deeply understand how this business works and where we'll be in 10, 20, or 30 years? If the answer is anything less than a resounding yes, it goes straight into the too-hard pile. He doesn't waste another minute on it. He doesn't feel bad about it. He doesn't worry that he might be missing out on the next big thing. He just moves on. This might sound overly simple or even lazy, but it's a profound form of intellectual discipline. Most people, especially smart people, believe they can figure anything out. Their ego gets in the way. They see a complex problem and think, I'm smart. I can solve this. They dive into industries they know nothing about, lured by the promise of big profits. This is how people lose their life savings. They invest in a biotech company without understanding the science, or a crypto asset without understanding the technology, simply because they heard it was going to the moon. Buffett is different. He has what his partner Charlie Munger calls intellectual humility. He is ruthlessly aware of the limits of his own knowledge. He knows that the world of business is vast and complex, and it's impossible to be an expert in everything. So instead of trying to be a jack of all trades, he has defined his small circle of competence, and he never, ever steps outside of it. His circle includes businesses like insurance, banking, consumer goods, and railroads, things he can understand. It does not include high-flying tech, speculative biotech, or complex derivatives. The most famous example of this, as we touched on before, was the dot-com bubble in the late 1990s. The world was going crazy for internet stocks. Companies with no profits and sometimes no revenue were seeing their stock prices double and triple overnight. It was a massive party, and Buffett was the only one who didn't show up. He was publicly criticized. Barron's, a major financial magazine, ran a cover story in 1999 with the headline, "What's wrong, Warren?" They said he was washed up, a relic from a bygone era who just didn't get it. Inside Berkshire Hathaway, the pressure was intense. Even some of his own shareholders were questioning him. He was missing out on easy money. But for Buffett, all these companies went straight into one place, the too-hard pile. He admitted it publicly. He said he had no idea how to value these companies. He couldn't tell which ones would be the winners and which would be the losers. He couldn't see a clear path to long-term profitability. So he did nothing. He happily sat on the sidelines, holding his boring companies like Coca-Cola and Gillette. Then, in March of 2000, the party ended. The bubble burst. The Nasdaq stock index, which was full of these tech companies, lost almost 80% of its value over the next 2 years. Trillions of dollars in paper wealth evaporated. The people who had called Buffett a fool were wiped out. And Buffett? He was fine. His discipline, his willingness to look stupid in the short term, had protected him from a catastrophic loss. His too hard pile was not a sign of weakness. It was his shield. This secret is about more than just avoiding losses. It's also about conserving his most valuable asset, his time and mental energy. By immediately discarding 99% of all opportunities as too hard, he frees himself up to focus intensely on the 1% that are left. When he finds a wonderful business that he understands completely, he can devote all his attention to it. He can read every page of its annual reports, study its competitors, and think deeply about its future. This is why when he finally decides to swing at a pitch, he swings big. He doesn't just buy a few shares. He often invests billions of dollars. This is only possible because he has cleared his mind of all the other distractions. In our modern world, this secret is more important than ever. We are bombarded with information. We have endless news feeds, social media, and a 24/7 news cycle all screaming for our attention. Everyone is an expert, and everyone has a hot tip. The temptation is to try and keep up with it all. The too hard pile is the ultimate filter. It's a declaration of independence from the noise. It's the simple act of saying, I don't know and I don't care. Buffett hopes you never learn this secret because it's the antidote to the gambling mentality that Wall Street thrives on. They want you to have an opinion on everything. They want you to feel like you need to be in on the latest trend, whether it's AI, electric vehicles, or cannabis stocks. But the too hard pile is the ultimate tool for an independent thinker. It gives you permission to ignore the crowd, to focus on what you know, and to protect yourself from your own worst impulses. It's the quiet discipline that separates lasting wealth from fleeting speculation. Chapter 4. The secret weaponization of his public image. Of all of Warren Buffett's secrets, this might be the most deceptive, the most calculated, and the one he would least want you to fully grasp. We've been led to believe that his image, the humble, folksy grandpa from Omaha who lives in the same house he bought in 1958, who eats cheeseburgers and drinks Coke, who loves to play the ukulele, is just who he is. We see it as a charming personality quirk. But what if it's not a quirk at all? What if it's a meticulously crafted and weaponized asset? The fourth secret is that Buffett's public persona is one of the most brilliant and profitable marketing strategies ever conceived. It is a tool he uses to get better deals, to build unshakable trust, and to disarm his competition. Think about the typical image of a billionaire. We picture slick, fast-talking titans in $1,000 suits, living in giant mansions, flying in private jets, and making ruthless deals in cold, glass boardrooms. They are often feared, sometimes respected, but rarely loved. Now, think of Warren Buffett. The image is the complete opposite. He projects simplicity, integrity, and old-fashioned common sense. He talks in simple, easy-to-understand language. He cracks jokes. He admits his mistakes openly in his annual letters. He has cultivated an image of being one of us, just a regular guy who happens to be incredibly good at picking stocks. But this image is not an accident. It is a competitive advantage. Let's see how it works in practice. Imagine you're the owner of a successful family business. You spent your entire life building this company. It's your baby. Now, you're getting older and you want to sell. You have two potential buyers. The first is a private equity firm from New York. They show up in expensive suits with a team of aggressive lawyers and accountants. They want to tear your business apart, fire loyal employees to cut costs, load the company with debt, and then sell it off in pieces a few years later. They are offering you a very high price, but you know they will destroy everything you've built. The second buyer is Warren Buffett. He calls you on the phone himself. He tells you how much he admires your company. He says he wants to buy it and own it forever. He promises not to interfere with your management, not to fire your people, and not to move the headquarters out of your hometown. He tells you that your company will have a permanent home inside Berkshire Hathaway, alongside other great businesses. He is offering a fair price. Maybe not the absolute highest, but he is offering you something more valuable. A promise that your life's work will be protected. Who do you sell to? For decades, countless family business owners have chosen Buffett. They sell their companies to Berkshire Hathaway, often for less money than they could have gotten elsewhere, because they trust him. They trust the image. They believe in the folksy grandpa from Omaha. This allows Buffett to buy wonderful businesses at prices nobody else can get. His persona is a deal-making machine that brings him opportunities that are invisible to his competitors. He calls Berkshire Hathaway a museum for businesses, a place where great companies can go to be preserved, not dissected. This pitch only works because of the man making it. The 2008 financial crisis is the ultimate case study of this secret in action. The global financial system was melting down. Banks were failing, credit markets were frozen, and fear was everywhere. Even the biggest and strongest companies couldn't borrow money. Panic was total. During this time, Buffett didn't just invest. He became the lender of last resort for corporate America. He invested billions in giants like Goldman Sachs and General Electric. But these weren't just investments. They were rescue packages. And more importantly, they were a stamp of approval. When Buffett put his money into Goldman Sachs, he wasn't just giving them cash. He was giving them his reputation. The deal was announced to the world, and the message was clear. Warren Buffett, the smartest and most trusted investor in the world, believes Goldman Sachs is safe. It was like a giant flashing sign that said the panic is over. His investment restored confidence in a way that no government bailout ever could. He was able to do this and get extraordinarily favorable terms for his money, including massive dividends and warrants, because of the trust he had built up over 50 years. His public image was literally a financial asset worth billions of dollars. No other investor on earth could have played that role. He wasn't just a great investor. He was playing a different game entirely. He was selling confidence, and his brand was the product. Even his famous annual shareholder meetings in Omaha are a part of this strategy. They are known as Woodstock for capitalists. Tens of thousands of people flock to Nebraska every year, not just to hear business updates, but to be in his presence. They watch him and Charlie Munger sit on a stage for hours, answering questions, drinking Coke, and eating peanut brittle. The whole event reinforces the image: approachable, wise, and transparent. It turns his shareholders from mere investors into a loyal fan club, a cult of personality. This loyalty gives him incredible freedom to manage Berkshire's money as he sees fit, without the short-term pressure that other CEOs face. This is the secret he would never admit. To admit it would be to shatter the illusion. The image of the humble, simple man is so powerful precisely because we believe it's real. But it is a construction, a strategic choice. He is, by all accounts, a man of integrity, but he is also a brilliant and ruthless businessman who understands that in the world of high finance, perception is reality. He has mastered the art of using simplicity and charm as a shield and a sword. He hopes you never learn this secret because he doesn't want you to see the master strategist behind the ukulele. He wants you to see the friendly grandpa, because that friendly grandpa gets deals that the ruthless sharks on Wall Street can only dream of. Chapter 5. The secret of his personal bank, the insurance float. Every great empire in history had a secret source of power. For the Romans, it was their legions and their roads. For the British, it was their navy. For Warren Buffett and the Berkshire Hathaway empire, the secret source of power is something far less glamorous, something most people have never even heard of. It's a concept from the boring world of insurance. It's called insurance float, and it is the hidden financial engine that has fueled Buffett's rise for over 50 years. This is his fifth and perhaps most important secret. It is quite simply his personal, interest-free, multi-billion-dollar bank. To understand this secret, you first need to understand how a basic insurance company works. It's very simple. You and I, and millions of other people, pay an insurance company money today to protect us from something bad that might happen in the future. We pay a premium for car insurance, in case we have an accident. We pay a premium for home insurance, in case there's a fire. The insurance company collects all of these premiums from everyone and holds onto the money. Later, when bad things happen, they pay out claims to the people who were affected. But here's the magic part. There is a gap in time between when the insurance company receives the money, the premiums, and when it has to pay the money out, the claims. This big pile of money that they are holding, the money that belongs to their customers, but that they get to control for a while, is the float. An ordinary insurance company will take this float and invest it in very safe, boring things like government bonds, just to make a little bit of extra money before they have to pay claims. But Warren Buffett is no ordinary insurer. When he took control of a struggling textile company called Berkshire Hathaway in the 1960s, he soon realized the textile business was doomed. So he started using its cash to buy other businesses, and one of the first things he bought was an insurance company. And that's when he discovered this secret weapon. He realized that this float was an incredible source of capital. It was like getting a loan from millions of people all at once. Even better, it was a loan that he didn't have to pay any interest on. In fact, if he ran the insurance business well, it could be even better than an interest-free loan. Here's how. An insurance business is considered run well if the premiums it collects are more than the claims and expenses it eventually pays out. When this happens, it's called an underwriting profit. This means that not only does Buffett get to use the float for free, but people are actually paying him to hold their money. It's like on a bank asking for a loan and having the bank pay you interest on the money you borrowed. It's a financial paradise. It's a concept so powerful it almost seems like cheating. From the moment he understood this, Buffett went all in on insurance. He bought National Indemnity Company. He started Geico, the car insurer famous for its gecko mascot. He built a massive reinsurance business that insures other insurance companies against giant catastrophes. Over the decades, this strategy has generated an enormous and ever-growing mountain of float for Berkshire Hathaway. In the 1970s, it was just a few $1 million. Today, Berkshire's insurance float is over $160 billion. Let that number sink in. $160 billion. That is money that doesn't belong to him, but that he has complete control over. It is a permanent, stable, and massive source of cash that he can use to buy other businesses. When he bought See's Candies, he used a float. When he bought a huge stake in the BNSF Railway, he used a float. When he invested in Apple, he used the float. The float is the rocket fuel for the entire Berkshire empire. It allows him to be ready with cash when opportunities appear, like during the 2008 financial crisis. While other companies were scrambling for money, Buffett was sitting on a mountain of it, ready to deploy. This is a secret he hopes you never learn because it shatters the myth that he is just a stock picker. His genius is not just in picking what companies to buy. It's in the brilliant structure of his entire company. He has created a system where he has a huge, permanent advantage over every other investor. While other investors have to borrow money from banks and pay interest or convince people to give them money, Buffett has a river of cash that flows into his company every single day from his insurance businesses. He has even said himself that if he were starting over today, he would focus on insurance. The power of the float is that significant. It explains how Berkshire Hathaway grew from a failing textile mill into one of the largest and most powerful companies in the world. It wasn't just one or two great stock picks. It was the result of a deliberate and brilliant financial architecture, with insurance float at its very heart. Think of it like this. Most investors are trying to climb a mountain. They have to work hard for every foot of elevation. Buffett, on the other hand, built himself an elevator inside the mountain. The float is that elevator constantly and quietly lifting him and his company to new heights. It's the ultimate secret weapon, hidden in plain sight within the boring pages of an insurance contract. It's the reason why, no matter what the stock market does, Warren Buffett always has the cash to play the game on his own terms. Chapter 6. The Secret of the Moat, Building an Unfair Business. Imagine you own a beautiful, strong castle. Inside this castle is a machine that prints money day and night. Now, Imagine that all of your competitors are jealous. They want your money machine. So every day, armies of competitors attack your castle. They try to climb your walls, break down your gate, and steal your treasure. If your castle has low walls and a weak gate, it's only a matter of time before you're overrun and your business is destroyed. But what if your castle was surrounded by a giant, wide, treacherous moat filled with hungry alligators? Suddenly, it doesn't matter how strong the attacking armies are. They can't even get to your walls. Your castle and your money machine are safe. This simple picture is the key to understanding Warren Buffett's sixth secret, and it's a word you will hear him use more than almost any other: the moat. Buffett does not look for good companies. He looks for business castles protected by impenetrable moats. He is searching for businesses that have a built-in, structural, almost unfair advantage that protects them from the constant attacks of competition. This isn't about having a better product for a year or two. It's about building a fortress that can last for 100 years. Let's look at one of his most famous investments, Coca-Cola. What is Coke's moat? Is it the secret formula? Partly. But the real moat is not in the liquid. It's in the mind of every person on Earth. For over a century, Coca-Cola has spent billions upon billions of dollars building its brand. That red and white logo is recognized by more people than almost any other symbol in the world. When you walk into a store in a remote village in a country you've never been to, you will probably see a Coke. That brand recognition, that global distribution network, that lifetime of happy associations, that is a moat. Could you start a new soda company tomorrow with a better tasting drink? Maybe. But could you spend the hundreds of billions of dollars and the 100 years it would take to build a brand that could rival Coke? Absolutely not. It's practically impossible. The moat is too wide and too deep. Buffett understood this. He wasn't just buying a soda company. He was buying a mental monopoly. Or think about another one of his big holdings, American Express. What's their moat? It's something called the network effect. For American Express to be valuable to you as a customer, stores have to accept the card. And for stores to want to accept the card, lots of customers have to have one. It's a chicken and egg situation. Once that network gets big enough, it becomes incredibly powerful and self-reinforcing. A new credit card company can't just show up and compete. They have no customers, so no stores will take their card. And since no stores take their card, they can't get any customers. American Express has spent decades building this global network of merchants and cardholders. That network is a massive moat. Buffett's genius is in identifying these moats. Sometimes it's a brand, like with Coke. Sometimes it's a network effect, like with Amex. Sometimes it's a government-granted monopoly, like a utility company that is the only one allowed to sell electricity in a city. Or sometimes it's a cost advantage. Take Geico, his car insurance company. They built their entire business model on selling directly to customers, cutting out the expensive agents that other insurance companies used. This gave them a lower cost structure, which meant they could offer lower prices. This low-cost advantage is a powerful moat that competitors have struggled to cross for decades. And then there are businesses with moats that are literally made of steel. In 2009, Buffett made one of his biggest bets ever, buying the Burlington Northern Santa Fe BNSF Railroad for $44 billion. Why buy a railroad? It seems like such an old, boring business. The reason is the moat. If you want to ship huge amounts of grain, coal, or oil across the United States, there are really only two ways to do it economically: by rail or by pipeline. Building a new, competing railroad across the country today is basically impossible. It would cost trillions of dollars, and you'd have to get the rights to all that land. BNSF has a network of tracks that is a unique, irreplaceable national asset. They have what is called a duopoly. They only have one major competitor in the western U.S. This gives them incredible pricing power and ensures they will be a vital part of the American economy for the next century. That is a moat you can see from space. This is a secret Buffett hopes you never learn because it goes against the get-rich-quick mentality that the financial world loves to sell. They want you to chase the hot new tech stock, the company with the explosive growth that's going to change the world. But Buffett knows that rapid growth often attracts ferocious competition. Armies of competitors will show up to attack that castle. And if it doesn't have a moat, it will eventually fall. Buffett isn't interested in a fair fight. He's interested in a rigged game. He wants to own the businesses that are almost guaranteed to win because the competition can't even get on the playing field. It's not about finding the next big thing. It's about finding the last big thing, the company that has already won the war and will be collecting the spoils for generations to come. Chapter 7. The secret of being the fireman who gets paid to start the fire. In times of crisis, we look for heroes. When a building is burning, we cheer for the fireman who runs inside to save the day. In the financial world, during the Great Fire of 2008, Warren Buffett was portrayed as that hero. He was the calm, steady hand, the trusted fireman who showed up with his giant hose full of cash to put out the flames that were consuming Wall Street. He saved some of America's greatest companies. But this brings us to a much darker secret, a more cynical interpretation of his role. What if he wasn't just a fireman? What if he was more like a financial arsonist who waits for the whole neighborhood to catch fire, knowing he's the only one with a working fire hydrant, and then charges a fortune to turn it on? This secret is about how Buffett doesn't just take advantage of fear. He weaponizes it to secure deals so good, so one-sided, that they're literally unavailable to any other person on the planet. Let's go back to September 2008. The financial world was an absolute freefall. Lehman Brothers had just collapsed, the biggest bankruptcy in U.S. history. The global credit system was frozen solid. Nobody was lending money to anybody. It felt like the apocalypse. The stock of Goldman Sachs, the most prestigious investment bank in the world, was plummeting. They were desperate for cash. But more than that, they were desperate for a vote of confidence. They needed a savior. So, their CEO picked up the phone and made a call to Omaha. Buffett answered. Goldman Sachs was on fire, and he was the only fireman in town. But he didn't offer to help out of the goodness of his heart. He named his price, and it was brutal. He agreed to invest $5 billion. But he didn't just buy their common stock like you or I would. Oh no, he demanded something called preferred stock. This stock paid him a dividend of 10% per year. That's $500 million a year, guaranteed, no matter what. For context, at the time, U.S. government bonds were paying around 3%. He was getting triple the rate from a company that was on its knees. But that wasn't enough. The real prize was something called warrants. Along with his preferred stock, he was given the right to buy $5 billion worth of Goldman's common stock at a fixed price of $115 per share, anytime over the next 5 years. At the time he made the deal, the stock was trading around $125, so this was already a good deal. But Buffett was betting that once the panic subsided, the stock would be worth much, much more. And he was right. A few years later, Goldman stock was trading at over $180 per share. He exercised his warrants, buying the stock at a special price of $115 and immediately selling it for a profit of billions. In total, from his rescue of Goldman Sachs, Buffett made a profit of roughly $3 billion. He wasn't just a fireman. He was the best-paid fireman in history. And he didn't stop there. He did the same thing with General Electric, another giant of American industry that was on the brink. He invested $3 billion, and again, he demanded preferred stock paying a 10% dividend, and he got warrants. A few years later, he made a similar deal with Bank of America, investing $5 billion. Again, he didn't just buy the stock. He got preferred shares paying a 6% dividend, plus warrants to buy 700 million shares of common stock at a ridiculously low price. That warrant position alone eventually made him a profit of over $12 billion. Do you see the pattern? This is not being greedy when others are fearful in the way it's taught to small investors. He is not simply buying stocks on the cheap. He is creating entirely new, exclusive securities for himself. He is using the panic as leverage to negotiate deals that are literally impossible for anyone else to get. His massive cash pile from the insurance float, secret number 5, means he has the money when no one else does. And his public image as the ultimate trustworthy investor, secret number 4, means his investment is a signal that saves the company. He is keenly aware of the unique power this combination gives him. and he uses it to extract every last drop of profit from a crisis. This is the secret that lies in the shadows of his heroic public image. The media loves the story of Warren Buffett to the rescue. But the reality is that he positions Berkshire Hathaway to be a crisis-era predatory lender. He doesn't start the fires, but his entire strategy is built on waiting for them, knowing that when they inevitably break out, he will be the only one selling water, and he can charge whatever price he wants. He hopes you never learn this secret, because it complicates the simple, clean narrative. It shows a ruthless, calculating opportunist who understands that the moment of maximum fear is also the moment of maximum profit. He's not just the fireman. He's the one who owns the fire department. Chapter 8. The Secret of Mr. Market, Your Personal Servant. Imagine you own a small piece of a great business, let's say a local pizza shop. You are partners with a very strange man named Mr. Market. Every single day, without fail, Mr. Market comes to your door. The weird thing about him is that he has a serious emotional problem. He's a manic depressive. Some days, he shows up euphoric and joyful. He tells you that your pizza shop is the greatest business in the world and offers to buy your share for an insanely high price. Other days, he shows up in a deep, dark depression. He's convinced that everything is doomed, that no one will ever eat pizza again, and he offers to sell you a share of the business for pennies on the dollar. He never gets tired. He's always there, every day, shouting a price at you. What should you do? Should you let his mood dictate your own? Should you feel rich when he's happy and poor when he's sad? Should you trade with him every day? The answer is no. You should ignore him most of the time. You know what your pizza shop is actually worth based on how much money it makes. You should only pay attention to Mr. Market on 2 occasions. When his euphoric mood gives you a chance to sell your share at a silly price, or when his deep depression gives you the chance to buy a share for a ridiculously cheap price. The rest of the time, you just let him scream into the void. This little story, originally told by Buffett's mentor Benjamin Graham, is the perfect metaphor for how Buffett views the stock market. And it is the key to his 8th secret. The stock market is not your teacher, it is your servant. For most people, the market is a source of information. They look at the screen, and if prices are going up, they feel smart and confident. If prices are going down, they feel scared and stupid. Their emotions are completely tied to the market's daily whims. They let Mr. Market tell them what their businesses are worth. Buffett does the exact opposite. He has completely detached his emotions from the market's movements. He doesn't care if the market is up or down on any given day, week, or even year. He already knows what the business is worth because he's done the homework. He sees Mr. Market not as a source of wisdom, but as an emotional lunatic who is constantly offering him opportunities. His job is simply to wait patiently for Mr. Market's mood swings to become so extreme that they create an undeniable bargain. Let's look at one of the greatest investments of his early career, the Washington Post. In 1973, the stock market was in the middle of a brutal crash. The mood was terrible. Mr. Market was in a deep depression. The Washington Post company was a great business. It owned the newspaper, but it also owned Newsweek magazine and several valuable TV stations. Buffett did his homework. He calculated that the entire business was worth at least $400 million. But because of the market panic, Mr. Market was offering to sell him the entire company for just $80 million. He was being offered a dollar bill for 20 cents. Did Buffett panic because the stock price was going down? No. He completely ignored the price action and focused on the value of the business. He saw Mr. Market's depression as a gift. Over the next year, he invested about $11 million, buying up a large chunk of the company. He just kept buying as the price went lower. He wasn't scared. He was thrilled. He was taking advantage of his partner's insanity. That $11 million investment eventually grew to be worth over $1 billion. It was one of the investments that made him a legend. And it was all possible because he treated the market as his servant, not his master. This psychological discipline is incredibly rare. Everything in our world is designed to make you react to Mr. Market. Financial news channels have screaming headlines and market alert graphics every 5 minutes. Websites and apps give you real-time quotes, turning investing into a video game. The entire industry wants you to feel like you need to do something based on the latest price movement. They need you to trade because that's how they make money. Buffett's secret is that he has built a mental wall between himself and that noise. He has said, the most important quality for an investor is temperament, not intellect. It doesn't matter how smart you are if you panic when Mr. Market panics. He has trained himself to think independently. When prices are falling, he doesn't ask, what's wrong with this company? He asks, is Mr. Market giving me a gift? He sees a falling stock price not as a danger, but as a potential opportunity to buy more of a great business at a cheaper price. It's like his favorite store having a 50% off sale. He wouldn't run away from the store. He would run into it. He hopes you never learn this secret, because if you did, the entire financial media would become irrelevant to you. You would stop checking your portfolio every day. You would stop listening to the so-called experts who pretend they can predict Mr. Market's next mood swing. You would be free. You would understand that the market is just a tool, a mechanism for transferring ownership of businesses. And it's a tool that is constantly being operated by a crazy person. Your job is not to figure out the crazy person. Your job is to wait for his craziness to hand you a golden opportunity. Chapter 9. The secret of the fortress he built in his mind. We've talked about Buffett's circle of competence and his too hard pile. We've seen it as a defensive tool, a way to avoid making stupid mistakes in areas he doesn't understand. But that's only half the story. The real secret, the offensive power of this concept, is that his small circle of competence isn't just a comfort zone. It's a fortress. And inside the walls of that fortress, he is not just a good investor. He is the most knowledgeable, most confident, and most dangerous predator in the financial world. The ninth secret is that by focusing on only a few industries, he has achieved a level of expertise so deep that it gives him the courage to act with absolute conviction when everyone else is paralyzed by doubt. Let's go back to 1963. Buffett was still a young, relatively unknown money manager. A huge company called American Express, a pillar of the financial establishment, was suddenly in the middle of a massive scandal. It was called the Salad Oil Scandal. It's a crazy story. One of Amex's divisions had a business where they would inspect a company's inventory and then issue receipts for it. Other banks would then lend money to that company, using the receipts as proof that the inventory was real. One of their biggest clients was a company that supposedly had huge tanks full of valuable salad oil. But it was a fraud. The tanks were mostly full of seawater with only a thin layer of oil floating on top. When the fraud was discovered, the Salad Oil Company went bankrupt, and all the banks that had lent it money based on Amex's receipts lost everything. They all sued American Express. Wall Street panicked. Mr. Market had a complete meltdown. Everyone assumed the lawsuits would bankrupt American Express. The stock price was destroyed, falling by almost 50%. It looked like the end for this great company. The situation was complicated, full of legal questions and financial uncertainty. For 99% of investors, this went straight into the too hard pile. But American Express was inside Buffett's circle of competence. He understood the financial services and insurance business. So instead of running away, he leaned in. He didn't just look at the numbers and the legal reports. He became a detective. He knew the real question wasn't about the salad oil. It was about the moat. Had this scandal damaged the core businesses of American Express? The credit card and the traveler's checks? To find out, he didn't call a Wall Street analyst. He started doing his own on-the-ground research. He would go to restaurants and stores and watch people. When they paid their bill, he'd see if they were still using their American Express cards. He would go to banks and talk to the tellers, asking if they were still selling traveler's checks. He even took a friend to dinner and paid with his Amex card, watching the waiter closely to see if there was any hesitation. What he found was that nothing had changed. The average person on the street didn't care about the salad oil scandal. They still trusted the American Express brand. The card was still a status symbol. The traveler's checks were still seen as the safest way to carry money overseas. The moat was completely intact. The scandal had damaged a small part of the company, but the great, profitable engines of the business were unharmed. Armed with this deep, first-hand knowledge, Buffett became incredibly confident. While Wall Street was selling in a panic, Buffett was buying with both fists. He invested 40% of his entire partnership's money into American Express stock. This was an enormous, all-in bet. It was the kind of bet that could make or break his entire career. But for him, it wasn't a gamble. Inside his fortress of competence, he wasn't guessing. He knew. He knew the business was sound, and he knew Mr. Market was a fool. Of course, he was right. The company survived the scandal, the stock price soared, and this single investment became a cornerstone of his early fortune. This is the secret's true power. The world tells you to diversify, to know a little bit about a lot of things. Buffett's approach is the complete opposite. He knows a huge amount about a very small number of things. By staying within his circle, he can go deeper than anyone else. He can read 50 years of a company's annual reports. He can understand the nuances of its industry in a way that a generalist never could. This depth of knowledge is what transforms investing from a game of chance into a game of skill. It gives him the intellectual courage to make massive bets when the odds are overwhelmingly in his favor. He hopes you never learn this secret because it's hard work. It's much easier to buy a bunch of different stocks and hope for the best. It's much harder to pick one or two industries and spend a decade becoming a true expert. But this secret reveals that the greatest returns don't come from diversification. They come from the concentrated application of superior knowledge. He's not just buying stocks. He's waiting for a moment of panic to strike within the one small area of the battlefield that he knows better than any other general, and then he attacks with overwhelming force. Chapter 10. The secret of his perfectly legal tax dodge. Warren Buffett has a public message, and he has a private strategy. Publicly, especially in recent years, he has been a vocal advocate for higher taxes on the wealthy. He famously pointed out that he pays a lower tax rate than his secretary, and he has argued that billionaires like him should contribute more to society. It's a noble-sounding position that has earned him a lot of praise. But behind the curtain, his company, Berkshire Hathaway, is one of the most brilliant and effective tax avoidance machines ever created. The 10th secret is that Buffett's entire corporate structure is a masterclass in legally sidestepping the taxman, allowing him to compound wealth at a rate that is simply impossible for a normal person. The secret lies in a simple decision he made decades ago. Berkshire Hathaway does not pay a dividend. To understand why this is so powerful, we need to quickly look at how taxes work for most investors. Let's say you own a stock like Microsoft or Apple. When those companies make a profit, they often share some of it with their owners, the shareholders, in the form of a dividend. When you receive that dividend check, it's considered income, and you have to pay taxes on it right away in that year. You have no choice. The money leaves the company, comes to you, and the government takes its cut. Now, let's look at Berkshire Hathaway. Berkshire owns huge stakes in dozens of companies. Those companies pay dividends to Berkshire. But what does Berkshire do with that money? It keeps it, all of it. Instead of paying it out to its own shareholders, like Buffett himself, it retains every single penny of profit. This simple act has a magical effect. Because the money never leaves the parent company, his shareholders don't have to pay personal income tax on those profits. That money, which would have been sent to the government, instead stays inside Berkshire's giant corporate wallet. What does he do with this giant pile of untaxed cash? He reinvests it. He uses it to buy more stocks or even entire companies. He is essentially using the government's money, interest-free, to build his empire. Think about the power of this over time. It's the magic of compounding, but on steroids. A normal investor has their snowball of wealth shaved down by taxes every single year. Buffett's snowball is allowed to keep rolling and growing uninterrupted for decades. His shareholders only pay tax when they decide to sell their shares of Berkshire Hathaway. This gives them complete control over when they pay their taxes, allowing them to defer it for 50 years or more if they choose. This structure is a work of genius. It turns Berkshire Hathaway into a giant, tax-deferred compounding vehicle. It's like the world's biggest IRA or 401k, but with far more flexibility. Let's look at the numbers. At the end of 2023, Berkshire had over $700 billion in stock investments. A huge portion of the value of those stocks is what's called unrealized capital gains. That's the profit they've made that they haven't paid tax on yet. The estimated deferred tax liability on this was over $160 billion. That's $160 billion that would have been paid to the U.S. Treasury, but is instead sitting in Berkshire's account, working for Buffett. This is the stark contrast between his public persona and his private actions. He can go on television and talk about how the rich should pay more in taxes, knowing full well that his own wealth is built on a structure designed to pay as little tax as legally possible for as long as possible. He's not breaking any rules. He's just playing the game better than anyone else. He understood that the single biggest cost for any long-term investor is not bad stock picks. It's taxes. And he engineered his entire company to minimize that cost. He hopes you never fully grasp this secret because it reveals a level of financial sophistication that goes far beyond simply picking good stocks. It shows that he is a master architect of financial structures. While he talks about his simple, folksy investment style, the engine room of his empire is powered by a complex and highly advantageous tax strategy. It allows him to play with a stacked deck. He gets to reinvest 100 cents of every dollar of profit, while a normal dividend investor might only get to reinvest 80 cents after the tax man takes his cut. Over 50 years, that difference is not just a gap, it's a chasm. It's the hidden machinery that has helped turn a small textile company into a trillion-dollar fortress of wealth. Chapter 11. The Secret of Reading Your Mind. Warren Buffett has a superpower. It's not the ability to see the future or predict the stock market. It's something much quieter and far more profitable. He has the ability to read your mind. Not just your mind, but the collective mind of billions of people around the globe. He doesn't use magic or telepathy. He uses a deep understanding of human psychology, habit, and desire. His 11th secret is his obsession with a very specific type of business, the consumer monopoly. These are not companies that are monopolies in the legal sense like a utility company. They are companies that have achieved something much more powerful. They have built a monopoly inside your head. Think about the first time you shaved. It's likely your father gave you a Gillette razor. For decades, Gillette perfected a business model so brilliant it was almost criminal. They would sell you the razor handle for a very cheap price, sometimes even giving it away. But once you had the handle, you were locked in. You had to buy their expensive, high-profit margin blades forever. This is the razor and blades model, and it's a perfect example of a consumer monopoly. The real product wasn't the razor, it was the habit. The real moat wasn't the technology, it was the space they occupied in the consumer's mind and on their bathroom counter. Buffett saw this, and, through Berkshire, became Gillette's largest shareholder for years, making billions. He wasn't investing in a shaving company. He was investing in the predictability of your morning routine. He is a master at identifying these psychological locks. Think back to See's Candies. Why was he willing to pay a premium for that business? Because he knew that See's wasn't just selling chocolate. They were selling nostalgia, tradition, and love. When a son buys a box of chocolates for his mother on Valentine's Day, he isn't just looking for the cheapest candy. He is trying to communicate an emotion. He remembers his father buying See's for his mother. He trusts the brand. He is willing to pay a little bit more for that feeling of certainty and quality. This emotional connection creates incredible pricing power. See's can raise its prices year after year, and people barely notice because the purchase is emotional, not rational. Buffett understood that he wasn't buying a confectioner. He was buying a small piece of his customers' hearts. This secret is about finding businesses whose products are woven into the very fabric of our lives. When you need to get a stain out of a shirt, you don't think I need sodium percarbonate, you think I need Tide. When you get a cut, you don't look for a sterile adhesive bandage. You look for a Band-Aid. These brands have become the generic term for the product itself. That is the ultimate consumer monopoly. It's a business that is so dominant, it becomes a mental shortcut. In the modern era, the greatest example of this is Apple, which is now Berkshire Hathaway's largest single investment by far. What is Apple's moat? It's not just their beautiful hardware. It's the ecosystem. Once you have an iPhone, you buy your apps from the App Store. Your music is on Apple Music. Your photos are in iCloud. You get a MacBook, and it syncs seamlessly with your phone. Then you get an Apple Watch. Each product you buy makes the others more valuable and makes it harder for you to leave. Leaving the Apple ecosystem isn't just about buying a new phone. It's about abandoning your digital life. It's a hassle. It's a pain. So you stay. This walled garden is the most powerful consumer monopoly of the 21st century. Buffett, the man who famously avoided tech stock for decades, finally invested tens of billions into Apple because he recognized that it had transcended technology. Apple wasn't a tech company anymore. It was a consumer habits company. It was the new Gillette. This is a secret Buffett hopes you never learn because it teaches you to look at the world differently. It's not about balance sheets and income statements. It's about watching what people do. It's about understanding why you choose one brand of ketchup over another, even if they taste almost identical. The financial industry wants you to believe that investing is a numbers game. But Buffett knows that the greatest fortunes are built on understanding something much more fundamental: the unchangeable, predictable, and often irrational patterns of human behavior. He's not just an investor. He's a commercial anthropologist, and we are his tribe. Chapter 12. The Secret of the Ultimate Insider Trade. In the cutthroat world of corporate takeovers, when one company buys another, the first thing that usually happens is a bloodbath. The new owners storm in, fire the old management team, and install their own people. It's a ruthless game of power and control. Warren Buffett, however, plays a completely different game. His 12th secret is a strategy that looks, from the outside, like the ultimate form of insider trading, but it's perfectly legal. The secret is this: Buffett doesn't just buy a company's assets. He buys its soul. He buys its management, and then he locks them in, creating a competitive advantage that no spreadsheet could ever capture. When Buffett looks at a business, he evaluates it on 3 criteria. First, is it a good business with a durable moat? Second, is it available at a fair price? And third, and most importantly, is it run by able and honest managers? For most corporate raiders, the management is an obstacle to be removed. For Buffett, the management is often the most valuable asset he is acquiring and the primary reason he wants to own the business in the first place. The most legendary example of this is the story of Rose Blumkin, a tiny Russian immigrant who was known simply as Mrs. B. In 1937, with a borrowed $500, she started the Nebraska Furniture Mart in the basement of a pawn shop in Omaha. She couldn't read or write English, but she was a selling machine, a force of nature. Her motto was sell cheap and tell the truth. She built the business into the single largest home furnishing store in North America, a massive, sprawling campus that crushed all its competition. In 1983, when Mrs. B was 89 years old, Warren Buffett went to see her. He didn't come with a team of lawyers or a complex contract. He walked in, asked her how much she wanted for the business, and she gave him a number. He said, okay. He wrote a check for $60 million and bought 90% of the company, all based on a 2-page agreement and a handshake. He didn't even have the business audited. Why? Because he wasn't just buying the inventory and the buildings. He was buying Mrs. B and her family. He knew that their passion, their work ethic, and their unique understanding of the business were the real moat. His one condition for the deal was that she and her family had to promise to keep running the place. He wanted their talent, and he was willing to pay for it. The story gets even better. A few years later, when Mrs. B was 95, she got into a fight with her grandsons over her management style. So, in a fit of anger, she quit. But she didn't retire. She crossed the street and started a rival store called Mrs. B's Clearance and Factory Outlet, with the explicit goal of putting her old store out of business. It became so successful that Buffett eventually had no choice but to buy that company too. He knew he was better off with her inside the tent than outside. He understood that a manager like Mrs. B was a once-in-a-generation talent, a priceless asset. This is Buffett's secret method. He seeks out these incredible owner-operators, people who have built a business from scratch and love it like a child. He offers them a deal they can't get anywhere else. He tells them, sell your business to me, and I will give you two things. First, you'll get a check that make your family rich forever. Second, you get to keep doing the job you love, with no one from headquarters bothering you. You are the artist. I'm just buying the museum to display your masterpiece. This gives him access to a type of insider information that is perfectly legal. He has a team of managers running his businesses who are the best in the world at what they do. He doesn't need to be an expert in furniture, candy, or jewelry. He just needs to be an expert in judging character. When he wants to know how the furniture business is doing, he doesn't read a Wall Street report. He calls the Blumpkins. He gets the unvarnished truth from the people on the front lines. This is a massive information advantage. He hopes you never learn this secret because it's a strategy built on things that can't be quantified: trust, passion, and character. The modern business world is obsessed with data, algorithms, and processes. It treats people as interchangeable cogs in a machine. Buffett's secret is that he knows the person in the cockpit is more important than the plane itself. He invests in people first and businesses second. It's a simple, old-fashioned idea, but in a world of cold, hard numbers, it has become his ultimate insider edge. Chapter 13. The Secret of Turning Lead into Gold. Warren Buffett, the wise grandpa of investing, has a very famous piece of advice he loves to give to ordinary people: avoid debt. He says you should stay away from credit cards and loans. It's sound, conservative advice that has helped millions of people avoid financial trouble. But this brings us to his 13th and one of his most hypocritical secrets. While he tells you to live a debt-free life, his own empire, Berkshire Hathaway, has been built on a mountain of strategically used debt. The secret is that Buffett is a master alchemist who understands how to turn the lead of debt into the gold of massive profits. He understands a fundamental truth that separates the rich from the poor. There is bad debt, and there is good debt. Bad debt is the kind he warns you about. It's the high-interest credit card debt you use to buy a new TV or go on vacation. It's debt that makes you poorer. It serves the lender. Good debt, on the other hand, is debt used to buy assets that produce more income than the interest you have to pay on the debt. It's debt that makes you richer. It serves the borrower. And Buffett is the master of using good debt. His two largest non-insurance businesses are a perfect example: his railroad, BNSF, and his collection of energy and utility companies, Berkshire Hathaway Energy. What do these two industries have in common? They are incredibly stable. They are essential to the functioning of the country, and they are allowed by the government to earn a steady, predictable profit. Because they are so reliable, these businesses can borrow enormous amounts of money at very low interest rates. Let's look at a railroad. It's a giant, capital-intensive business. You need to buy locomotives, lay tracks, and maintain bridges. This costs billions of dollars. So, BNSF borrows money, billions and billions of dollars of it. But they can borrow it very cheaply because everyone knows the railroad is not going out of business. They then use that borrowed money to invest in their network, which allows them to ship more goods and earn a profit. As long as the profit they earn from their investments is higher than the low interest rate they pay on their debt, they are creating value. Buffett is using the bank's money to make himself richer. His energy business is even more powerful. Utility companies are often regulated monopolies. They need to spend huge sums of money building power plants and transmission lines. To fund this, they issue bonds, which is just another form of borrowing money. In fact, Berkshire Hathaway Energy is one of the biggest debt issuers in the corporate world. But again, it's good debt. They use that borrowed money to build an asset, like a solar farm, that will generate predictable cash flow for the next 30 years. The cash flow from the solar farm pays off the interest on the debt, with plenty left over for profit. It's a money machine funded by other people's money. This reveals a huge disconnect between his public advice and his corporate strategy. It's not that he's lying. It's that he's playing a different game with a different set of rules. For an individual, taking on debt to buy a depreciating asset is financial suicide. For a massive corporation that owns an irreplaceable asset like a national railroad, taking on low-cost, long-term debt is one of the smartest things you can do. It's a form of leverage. It magnifies the returns on his investments. He hopes you never understand this distinction because it complicates his simple, folksy image. The idea that he is a master of corporate debt doesn't fit with the picture of the cautious, risk-averse investor from Omaha. But the numbers don't lie. Berkshire Hathaway has well over $100 billion in corporate debt on its balance sheet. This isn't a sign of weakness. It's a sign of financial sophistication. He knows that debt, when used by the right business for the right purpose, is not a chain. It is a rocket engine. While he advises you to cut up your credit cards, he is quietly using this powerful financial tool to help Berkshire compound its wealth at an even faster rate. Chapter 14. The Secret of Never Losing. What is the first rule of investing? If you ask Warren Buffett, he'll give you a very simple answer. Rule number 1, never lose money. Rule number 2, never forget rule number 1. It sounds a bit like a joke, a catchy soundbite. But it's not a joke. It is the absolute, ironclad, central pillar of his entire investment philosophy. His 14th secret is that his whole strategy is not designed to find the biggest winners. It's designed from the ground up to avoid losers. He is not playing offense. He is playing the most disciplined and ruthless game of defense the world has ever seen. The secret to his winning is his obsession with not losing. The technical term for this obsession is a concept he learned from his mentor, Benjamin Graham. It's called the margin of safety. The idea is simple, but it is the most important concept in all of value investing. A margin of safety means always buying something for significantly less than what you believe it is truly worth. It's not about buying a dollar for 95 cents. It's about buying a dollar for 50 cents. Graham explained it with an analogy of building a bridge. If you know that a 10,000-pound truck needs to cross a bridge, you don't build the bridge to hold exactly 10,000 pounds. That would be insane. A small miscalculation, a bit of unexpected stress, and the whole thing collapses. No, you build the bridge to hold 30,000 pounds. That massive cushion, that extra strength, is the margin of safety. It protects you from errors, from bad luck, from the things you can't predict. Buffett applies this exact same logic to every investment he makes. Before he buys any business, he first calculates what he calls its intrinsic value. This is his best estimate of what the business is truly worth, based on all the cash it's going to produce in the future. Once he has that number, he simply refuses to pay anything close to it. He insists on a huge discount. He wants to buy it for 60 cents on the dollar, 50 cents on the dollar, or even less. That discount is his margin of safety. Why is this so powerful? Because it means he doesn't have to be perfect. The margin of safety protects him when he makes a mistake. Let's say he analyzes a company and decides its intrinsic value is $100 per share. He then waits until the price drops to $50 and he buys it. Now, what happens if his analysis was a bit off? What if the company faces some unexpected problems and it turns out the true value was only $70 per share? An investor who paid $90 for that stock would lose money. But Buffett, who paid $50, still has a profitable investment. His margin of safety turned a potential loss into a gain. It's a shield that protects him from the uncertainties of the future. One of the most extreme examples of this was his investment in a company called PetroChina in the early 2000s. At the time, he did an analysis and calculated that this giant Chinese oil company was worth about $100 billion. But when he looked at its stock price on the market, he found that its total market capitalization was only $35 billion. Mr. Market was offering him the entire company for about 1/3 of what he thought its most conservative value was. The margin of safety was enormous. It was like a bridge built to hold 1,000,000 pounds for a bicycle. He invested heavily. A few years later, the market realized its mistake, and the company's valuation soared to over $275 billion. Buffett sold his position, making a profit of over $3.5 billion. He didn't need to be a genius to make that investment. He just needed to be disciplined enough to wait for a price that was so ridiculously cheap that it was almost impossible to lose money. This defensive mindset is what truly separates him from the speculators and gamblers. A speculator is focused on how much they can win. They are attracted to stories, to hype, to the promise of explosive gains. Buffett is focused only on how much he can lose. His first question is always, what is the downside? If he can't be certain that the risk of permanent loss is close to zero, he simply won't play. He hopes you never learn this secret because it is the complete opposite of the exciting, fast money culture that the financial industry promotes. They sell the dream of hitting home runs. Buffett's secret is that you win the game by just not striking out. By focusing obsessively on avoiding losses, the gains eventually take care of themselves. It's a slow, boring, and unglamorous strategy, but it's the very foundation upon which his unbreakable fortress of wealth was built. Chapter 15: The Secret of the Empty Throne. Imagine the world of high finance as a giant, chaotic royal court. In the center of the court is New York City, and on Wall Street sits a throne. On this throne sits the king of the market, the most powerful person in finance. Every day, thousands of the smartest, most ambitious people in the world flock to this court. They fight, they gossip, they scheme, and they claw their way over each other, all hoping for a chance to sit on that throne, even for a day. They're the hedge fund managers, the investment bankers, the TV pundits. They're all desperate to be at the center of the action. And then there's Warren Buffett. He is arguably the most successful investor in history, the rightful king. But where is he? He's not in the court. He's not even in the same country, metaphorically speaking. He's 1,000 miles away, in a quiet office in Omaha, Nebraska. The throne on Wall Street is empty, and it has been for 60 years. His 15th secret is that his greatest strategic decision was not an investment, but a location. His physical isolation from Wall Street is not a charming quirk. It is his most powerful psychological weapon. To understand why, you have to understand the nature of the court on Wall Street. It is a giant echo chamber. It runs on gossip, rumors, and what everyone else is thinking. It's a world of groupthink. If a few powerful people start buying a certain stock, everyone else feels the pressure to buy it too, not because they've done the research, but because they're terrified of being left behind. If panic starts to spread, it becomes a stampede for the exits, as everyone tries to sell before everyone else. In this environment, it is almost impossible to think independently. Your judgment is constantly being clouded by the noise, by the emotions of the crowd. Buffett understood this danger early in his career. He had worked in New York for a short time, and he hated it. He knew that if he stayed there, he would be influenced by the constant chatter. He would be tempted to join the herd, to chase the hot trends, to play the short-term game. He knew that to be a successful long-term investor, he needed to protect his mind from this institutional imperative, the tendency for organizations to mindlessly imitate their peers. So he left. He went back home to Omaha, a place as far removed from the frenzy of Wall Street as you can get. This decision to physically isolate himself was a conscious act of psychological warfare against his own worst impulses. In Omaha, there is no noise. There are no hot tips whispered at cocktail parties. There are no frantic traders shouting on a trading floor. There is just him, his partner Charlie Munger, and a pile of annual reports. This isolation allows him to think. It allows him to read for hours on end, to think deeply about businesses without being distracted by the market's daily mood swings. It gives him the freedom to look foolish in the short term, like he did during the dot-com bubble. If he had been in New York during that time, the pressure from his peers to buy tech stocks would have been unbearable. In Omaha, he could calmly look at the facts, decide it was all crazy, and go back to drinking his cherry Coke. His geography is his filter. This secret is about more than just physical distance. It's about creating an entire ecosystem for rational thought. He has structured his life to minimize outside inputs and maximize his ability to think for himself. He doesn't have a stock ticker in his office. He rarely talks to Wall Street analysts. He gets his information from primary sources, the financial statements of companies and conversations with his managers. He has deliberately cut himself off from the very information stream that 99% of other investors are addicted to. He hopes you never learn this secret because it's a direct assault on the entire Wall Street establishment. It implies that everything they do, the 24/7 news cycle, the expert analysis, the complex charts, the endless debate, is not just useless, but actually harmful to your financial health. His empty throne is a quiet but powerful statement that the game is not won in the center of the court. It's won far away, in a library, in the quiet discipline of your own independent mind. He abandoned the kingdom to build an empire. Chapter 16. The Secret of the 20-Slot Punch Card. Imagine I handed you a special punch card. This card has only 20 empty slots on it. And I tell you that this is the only punch card you will ever get for the rest of your life. Every time you make an investment decision, every time you buy a stock, you have to punch one of those slots. Once you've punched all 20, that's it. No more investments. Ever. How would that change the way you invest? Would you still buy that hot stock your friend told you about? Would you still jump in and out of the market based on a news headline? Of course not. You would treat every single punch as the most important financial decision of your life. You would do incredible amounts of research. You would wait for an opportunity that was so good, so certain, that you would be thrilled to use up one of your precious slots on it. This little thought experiment is the key to Warren Buffett's 16th, and perhaps most controversial, secret. In a world that screams diversify, 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 Buffett has built his fortune on the exact opposite principle: radical concentration. He believes that the average investor should probably diversify because they don't know what they're doing. But for those who are willing to do the work, true wealth is not built by owning a little bit of everything. It's built by owning a huge amount of very few wonderful things. He is a disciple of the punch card philosophy. The entire financial planning industry is built on the idea of diversification. They tell you to spread your money across hundreds or even thousands of different stocks, bonds, and countries. The logic is that if one of your investments does badly, the others will save you. It's a strategy designed to protect you from ignorance. It guarantees that you will get average results. But Warren Buffett is not interested in average results. He is interested in extraordinary results. And he knows that you cannot be extraordinary if you are doing what everyone else is doing. His career is a testament to this philosophy of making huge, concentrated bets. We already talked about his all-in bet on American Express during the salad oil scandal, where he put 40% of his entire fund into one stock. It was punch number one, and it was a home run. Fast forward to 1988. He invested over $1 billion into Coca-Cola, which at the time represented more than a quarter of Berkshire Hathaway's entire portfolio. Punch number two. Another massive home run. Fast forward again to today. His investment in Apple is the most extreme example of all. At times, Apple has accounted for nearly 50% of Berkshire Hathaway's entire public stock portfolio. Think about that. One of the largest companies in the world has half of its stock market money riding on the success of a single company. This is the punch card philosophy in action on a scale that is almost unimaginable. Why does he do this? Why take such a massive risk? The secret is that for him, it's not a risk. The risk, in his mind, is in spreading your money around in businesses you don't fully understand. That is diversification born from ignorance. His concentration is born from knowledge. When he decides to invest in a company like Apple, he has spent years studying it. He has read every annual report. He understands its moat, its management, its customers. He has built such a deep and unshakable conviction in the long-term future of the business that he feels more comfortable putting 40% of his money into it than putting 1% into 40 different companies he knows little about. His punch card is not a limitation. It is a filter. It forces him to a level of discipline and certainty that most investors never achieve. This secret is about the relationship between knowledge and risk. The financial industry wants you to believe that risk is a property of a stock. They'll say tech stocks are risky or utility stocks are safe. Buffett believes this is nonsense. Risk is not in the stock. It is in the investor. Risk is not knowing what you're doing. If you're an expert on a particular business, buying it at a sensible price is not risky, no matter how much you buy. If you know nothing about a business, buying even one share is a pure gamble. He hopes you never learn this secret because it is a direct threat to the entire money management industry. Their business model is based on selling you diversified products like mutual funds and ETFs. They make money by charging you a fee to manage your ignorance. Buffett's punch card philosophy tells you to fire the money manager, do the hard work yourself, and when you find that once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, you should bet the farm. It's a secret that replaces the false safety of diversification with the true safety of superior knowledge. It's the simple, powerful idea that the best way to get rich is to put all your eggs in one basket, and then watch that basket like a hawk. Chapter 17. The secret of his personal time machine. Imagine you could go back in time to the 1950s, not to invest in the hot new technologies of the day, like color television or plastics, but to buy the local newspaper in every small town in America. In the 1950s, these newspapers were gold mines. They were local monopolies. If you wanted to find out who died, who got married, what the high school football score was, or what was on sale at the local grocery store, you had one choice: the local paper. It was an essential part of the community, and as the owner, you could charge whatever you wanted for ads. It was a license to print money. Now, imagine you could have that same business model, that same monopolistic power, but you could buy it in the 21st century for pennies on the dollar. This is exactly what Warren Buffett did, and it is the key to his 17th secret: his ability to use his understanding of history as a time machine to find old, forgotten business models that still work in the modern world. In the 2010s, the entire world was convinced that the newspaper industry was dead. And for the big city papers, they were right. The internet had destroyed their business model. Craigslist killed the classified ads. Websites provided news for free. It was a bloodbath. The stocks of newspaper companies were treated like toxic waste. Wall Street wouldn't touch them. But Buffett saw something different. He wasn't looking at the New York Times or the Chicago Tribune. He started buying up dozens of small-town newspapers, like the Omaha World-Herald and the Buffalo News. People thought he was crazy. They said the old man had finally lost his touch. Why on earth was he buying these relics from a bygone era? The secret is that he wasn't buying newspapers. He was buying community information monopolies. He realized that in a small town, a strong local newspaper was still the central hub of the community. It was the only place you could get truly local information. National news websites weren't covering the town council meeting or the local school play. The local paper still owned that niche. He was essentially using his time machine. He recognized that the economic structure of small-town paper in 2013 was very similar to the economic structure of a big city paper in 1950. It had a loyal, paying audience and a local advertising moat that the internet hadn't fully penetrated. Because the rest of the world saw the entire industry as a disaster, he was able to buy these businesses for a tiny fraction of what they were worth. He was buying these little information monopolies for 3 or 4 times their annual earnings, at a time when the rest of the stock market was trading for 15 or 20 times earnings. This secret is about his ability to see patterns that repeat throughout history. He understands that while technology changes, human nature and basic business economics often don't. A business that has a monopoly on a service that people need will always be a good business, regardless of the industry. He has done the same thing in other old industries. We talked about his massive investment in the railroad. At the time, railroads were seen as a slow, boring 19th century business. But Buffett looked at the fundamentals and saw an irreplaceable asset with a massive moat. He saw the 21st century equivalent of a feudal toll road. His famous investment in American Express is another example. The business model of profiting from a trusted network of merchants and consumers is not a new idea. It's a modern version of the old merchant banking guilds of Renaissance Italy. Buffett has a deep understanding of business history, and he uses that knowledge to identify timeless, durable business models that have been temporarily forgotten or misjudged by the market. He hopes you never learn this secret, because it requires a way of thinking that is completely alien to the modern financial world. Wall Street is obsessed with the future. What's the next big thing? What's the next disruptive technology? They are constantly chasing innovation. Buffett's secret is that he often finds his greatest treasures by digging through the past. He looks for business models that have already proven they can survive for 100 years, and then he buys them when they are out of fashion. He's not trying to predict the future. He's betting on the things that never change. His time machine doesn't travel to the future. It travels to the past to find the blueprints for the fortunes of today. Chapter 18. The Secret of the Fat Pitch. Every great hunter knows that success is not about constant action. It's not about firing your gun at every shadow that moves in the forest. Success is about long periods of intense observation and absolute stillness, followed by a brief moment of decisive, perfect action. It is about waiting for the perfect shot. In the world of investing, Warren Buffett is the ultimate hunter, and his 18th secret is his almost inhuman discipline to wait for what he calls the fat pitch. He is not interested in good ideas or pretty good ideas. He is only interested in the rare, once-in-a-decade opportunities that are so obvious, so overwhelmingly in his favor, that he simply cannot miss. He loves to use the analogy of the great baseball player Ted Williams. Ted Williams was the last player in Major League Baseball to hit over .400 in a season, a feat of incredible consistency. He wrote a book called The Science of Hitting, and in it, he described his secret. He had a picture of the strike zone, and he had it divided into 77 smaller squares, each the size of a baseball. He knew from experience that if he only swung at pitches in the very center of the strike zone, the fat part of the plate, he would get hit almost every time. But if he swung at pitches on the corners, his batting average would plummet. His whole strategy was to wait for the pitch to come to his sweet spot. Buffett says that in investing, it's even better. In baseball, if you let 3 good pitches go by, you're out. But in investing, there are no called strikes. You can stand at the plate all day for years and watch thousands of pitches go by. The market will throw you everything: hot IPOs, complicated derivatives, speculative biotech stocks. The crowd will be screaming, "Swing, you bum!" But you don't have to. You can wait and wait and wait for that one perfect, juicy, slow-moving pitch right down the middle of the plate. And only then do you swing, and you swing with everything you've got. So what does a fat pitch look like to Warren Buffett? It's the rare convergence of 3 things. First, it has to be a wonderful business, one with a deep, durable moat that he understands completely. Second, it has to be run by able and honest managers. And third, and this is the crucial part that only comes along in times of crisis, it has to be available at a ridiculously cheap price because of some temporary problem or widespread market panic. The 2008 financial crisis was the ultimate fat pitch festival. We already talked about his deals with Goldman Sachs and General Electric, but his investment in Bank of America might be the fattest pitch of all. In 2011, the world was still terrified of banks. The market was worried that Bank of America was going to collapse under the weight of its bad mortgage loans from the crisis. The stock price was getting crushed. There was blood in the streets. This was not a pitch on the corner of the plate. This was a giant beach ball floating toward him in slow motion. He saw a business that was too big to fail, an essential part of the American economy that he knew the government would ultimately backstop. He saw a temporary problem, bad loans, that was masking the long-term earning power of a dominant franchise. And he saw extreme fear. So he picked up the phone. He didn't just buy the stock. He negotiated one of his classic sweetheart deals. $5 billion of preferred stock, paying him a 6% dividend, plus warrants to buy 700 million shares of common stock at just over $7 a share. Over the next few years, as the fear subsided and the bank recovered, the stock price soared to over $30. Those warrants alone made Berkshire a profit of more than $20 billion. That is what happens when you wait for the fat pitch. This secret is about patience, but it's a specific kind of patience. It's not passive waiting, it's active hunting. It's the discipline to say no to 1,000 good ideas so that you have the capital, the courage, and the mental clarity to say a resounding yes to that one great idea. Most investors can't do this. Their brains are wired for action. Sitting on cash feels like losing. They feel like they have to be constantly swinging, constantly playing the game. This constant activity leads to average or below average results. Buffett hopes you never learn this secret because it's the ultimate antidote to the hyperactivity that Wall Street feeds on. The hunter doesn't get paid for how many bullets he fires. He gets paid for what he brings home. By waiting for the fat pitch, Buffett ensures that when he finally pulls the trigger, it's not a speculative shot in the dark. It's a near-certain kill. Chapter 19. The Secret of His Other Half. Every great hero has a sidekick, a trusted advisor who tells them the hard truths that no one else dares to say. King Arthur had Merlin. Sherlock Holmes had Dr. Watson. For Warren Buffett, the billionaire oracle, that person is Charlie Munger. For over 60 years, these two men formed the most successful business partnership in history. And Buffett's 19th secret, one he would readily admit, but whose importance is impossible to overstate, is that a huge part of his genius was not his own. It was borrowed, refined, and often saved by the brilliant, cynical, and hilariously blunt mind of Charlie Munger. On the surface, they were opposites. Buffett is known for his folksy charm, his simple explanations, and his optimistic view of America. Munger, who passed away in 2023, was gruff, academic, and famously pessimistic. Buffett is a master of business analysis. Munger was a master of human psychology. But together, they created a mental machine that was far more powerful than the sum of its parts. Munger's official title at Berkshire Hathaway was vice chairman, but his real job was much more important. He was the company's abominable no-man. Munger's job was to kill Buffett's bad ideas. Buffett is an idea machine. He is naturally optimistic and is constantly looking for new opportunities. But this can be dangerous. Munger's role was to be the voice of reason, the intellectual brakes on the Buffett engine. Countless times over the decades, Buffett would get excited about a potential investment, and he would take it to Charlie. And Charlie, in his typical blunt fashion, would say, "Warren, that is the stupidest thing I have ever heard," and then proceed to explain exactly why, using a barrage of logic and mental models from a dozen different disciplines. Munger saved Buffett from making billions of dollars in mistakes. And, as Munger himself liked to say, if you can just avoid being stupid, you'll be amazed at how well you do. The most important contribution Munger ever made was in fundamentally changing Buffett's entire investment philosophy. Buffett started his career as a pure cigar-butt investor, a student of Benjamin Graham. He looked for terrible companies selling at ridiculously cheap prices, hoping to get one last puff of profit out of them before they died. It was Munger who convinced him that this was a terrible way to live. Munger's mantra was, "It's far better to buy a wonderful company at a fair price than a fair company at a wonderful price." This simple idea completely changed Berkshire's trajectory. It was Munger who pushed Buffett to buy See's candies, to pay a premium for a quality brand. That decision shifted Berkshire away from buying dying cigar butts and toward owning a collection of the greatest businesses in the world. Without Charlie Munger, there is no Coca-Cola investment, no American Express, no Apple. Berkshire Hathaway would be a small footnote in financial history. This secret is about the immense power of having the right partner. Not a yes man, but a true intellectual sparring partner who will challenge your assumptions and save you from your own biases. Buffett and Munger built a unique culture at Berkshire based on absolute rationality. They were obsessed with understanding human psychology and the mental errors that lead to bad decisions. They studied cognitive biases like overconfidence, herd mentality, and confirmation bias, and they designed their partnership to be a weapon against these very tendencies. Buffett hopes you never fully appreciate this secret because it shatters the myth of the lone genius. The world loves to tell stories about singular heroes, but the reality of Berkshire's success is that it was a duet. It was the product of two brilliant minds, one a specialist in business and the other a specialist in human nature, who trusted each other enough to argue, to challenge, and to combine their strengths. The empty throne in Omaha was not really empty. There were two chairs, and the conversation that took place between them for over half a century was the secret ingredient that powered the entire empire. Chapter 20. The Secret of the Money Pipeline. Imagine you own a small village. In the center of the village is a giant stone basin. Every morning, you notice that a little bit of water has magically appeared in the basin overnight. So, you take that water and use it to water a small apple seed you planted next to the basin. The next day, a little more water appears, and your seed has started to sprout. Over time, that apple seed grows into a small tree. That tree starts to produce a few apples. You sell those apples and use the money to build a small aqueduct that captures rainwater and funnels it into your basin. Now, even more water appears in the basin every morning. You use that extra water to grow more apple trees. Those trees produce more apples, which you sell to build more aqueducts. Over 50 years, your one small basin and one tiny seed have transformed into a massive, self-sustaining ecosystem of aqueducts and orchards, all working together, all growing bigger and stronger every year. This little story is a metaphor for Warren Buffett's 20th and perhaps most brilliant secret. It is the grand, unifying theory that ties all the other secrets together. The secret is that Berkshire Hathaway is not a company. It is a perfectly designed, closed-loop, perpetual motion machine for compounding capital. It is not just a collection of assets. It is a system, an engine. And understanding how that engine works is the key to understanding the true source of his power. The engine has 4 main parts, and they all work together in a perfect flywheel. Part 1 is the fuel source. This is the insurance float, secret number 5. The massive, ever-growing, low-cost pile of cash that flows into Berkshire every single day from its insurance operations. This is the water that magically appears in the basin every morning. Part 2 is the first growth engine. This is Buffett, the master capital allocator. He takes the float and he invests it with incredible skill. He buys wonderful, wholly owned businesses like the railroad and the energy company, and huge stakes in public companies like Apple and Coca-Cola. This is him planting the apple seeds. Part 3 is the harvest. The businesses he buys are cash-generating machines. The railroad makes a profit. The energy company makes a profit. Apple and Coca-Cola pay dividends. All of this cash, this harvest of apples, flows back from the subsidiaries to the parent company, Berkshire Hathaway, in Omaha. And here's the most crucial part of the machine, Part 4, the tax-free pipeline. Because Berkshire does not pay a dividend to its own shareholders, secret number 10, that entire harvest of cash stays inside the parent company. It is not taxed at the personal level. That money goes directly back into the giant basin. This is him using the money from the apples to build more and bigger aqueducts. And then the cycle starts all over again. The next day, the basin is even fuller. It contains the new float from the insurance companies, plus all the profits from the railroad and the dividend from Apple. Buffett now has an even larger pile of capital to allocate. He could buy more businesses or bigger businesses. Those businesses then produce even more cash, which flows back to the basin, making it even bigger for the next cycle. This is the Berkshire Hathaway flywheel. It is a perpetual motion machine for money. Each part of the system makes the other part stronger. The insurance business provides the fuel for the investments. The investments provide the profits that allow him to make even bigger investments. And the tax-efficient structure ensures that the machine can spin faster and faster, with almost no friction, year after year, decade after decade. He hopes you never understand this secret in its entirety, because it reveals that his true genius is not as a stock picker. His true masterpiece is not any single investment. His masterpiece is the machine itself. He is not just a great investor. He is the greatest financial architect of all time. He has created a corporate structure that is designed for one purpose and one purpose only: the relentless, unstoppable, long-term compounding of capital. It's a secret that shows he's not just playing the game. He designed a whole new one, and he's the only one who knows all the rules. Chapter 21. The Secret of the Expanding Circle. Everyone who follows Warren Buffett knows about his most famous rule: stay within your circle of competence. We talked about it. It's the fortress in his mind, the source of his discipline. He famously avoided technology stocks for decades because, in his own words, he didn't understand them. It's a simple, powerful story of humility. But what if that story is incomplete? What if the secret isn't just about staying inside the circle? What if the real secret is the slow, painstaking, and almost invisible way he makes that circle grow? His 21st secret is that his circle of competence is not a stone wall. It is a living, breathing thing that expands, but only when he has achieved a level of mastery that makes the new territory as safe as his own backyard. For decades, the world's biggest and most profitable companies were in the technology sector. Microsoft, Intel, Cisco, they were creating the modern world. And Buffett sat on the sidelines, watching. He was mocked. He was called a dinosaur. The world was changing, and the Oracle of Omaha seemed to be stuck in the past, buying companies that sold soda pop and chewing gum. He said technology was outside his circle. And for 30 years, he was true to his word. Then, in 2016, the world was stunned. Berkshire Hathaway started buying shares of Apple. Not just a few shares. They started buying billions of dollars worth. It seemed to be a complete contradiction of everything he had ever said. The dinosaur was suddenly buying the shiniest, most advanced company on the planet. Had he gone crazy? Had someone else taken over his brain? No, the circle had expanded. But to understand how, you have to understand his process, and it's a process of incredible patience that is completely alien to the rest of the financial world. He didn't just wake up one day and decide to learn about semiconductors and coding. That's not how it works. He expanded his circle by finding a bridge from what he already knew to what he needed to learn. He started to see Apple not as a technology company, but as a consumer products company. And consumer products were right in the heart of his circle of competence. He had studied companies like Gillette and Coca-Cola his entire life. He was an expert on brands, on customer loyalty, on products that create a habit. He started to ask different questions about Apple. He didn't ask, what will the iPhone 10 look like? He asked, how many people will switch from an iPhone to another brand? He saw the incredible loyalty of Apple's customers. He saw the people who bought an iPhone tended to buy another one. They were locked into the ecosystem, just like a man who owned a Gillette razor handle was locked into buying Gillette blades. He saw the iPhone not as a piece of technology, but as a piece of essential real estate. It was the single most important object in a person's life. He saw that the brand, the simple, clean Apple logo, was a global symbol of quality and status, just like the Coca-Cola logo. His learning process was slow and methodical. He didn't read analyst reports. He observed the world. He talked to his grandchildren and saw how inseparable they were from their iPhones. He asked his managers at Berkshire's dozens of companies what products their customers couldn't live without. He read Apple's annual reports, not for the technical jargon, but for the numbers that told the story of a consumer giant with unbelievable pricing power and a global moat. He waited until he understood Apple's business from a consumer perspective as well as he understood See's candies. And only then, after years of study and observation, did he decide that this new territory was safe. He wasn't taking a leap of faith. He was taking one small, deliberate step on a solid ground that he had spent a decade testing. This is the secret. While Wall Street is chasing the next hot trend, jumping from AI to crypto to cannabis stocks overnight, Buffett is engaged in a decades-long learning process. He doesn't try to learn everything at once. He looks for a connection, a bridge from the old world to the new. He uses his deep knowledge of the past to understand the present. He expanded his circle to include technology not by becoming a tech expert, but by realizing that the greatest tech company in the world was secretly a consumer habits company in disguise. He hopes you never learn this secret because it exposes the shallow, trend-chasing nature of modern finance. It reveals that true, lasting knowledge isn't acquired in a flash of insight. It's built brick by painstaking brick over a lifetime of patient study. Chapter 22. The Secret of Owning the Story. In the modern world, the media is a battlefield. It's a constant war for attention, a 24/7 storm of headlines, opinions, and noise. Most CEOs and billionaires are terrified of it. They hide behind layers of public relations experts and carefully crafted press releases. They are on the defensive, constantly reacting to the story that the media creates about them. And then there's Warren Buffett. He isn't just a participant in this war. He is a 5-star general. His 22nd secret is that he doesn't just let the media tell his story. He has created his own media empire, a powerful and sophisticated machine designed to control his own narrative, educate his followers, and attract exactly the kind of opportunities he wants. His empire has three main weapons, and each one is a masterpiece of strategic communication. The first and most powerful is the Berkshire Hathaway annual letter to shareholders. On the surface, it's just a corporate document. In reality, it is the single most read financial publication in the world. It's part business report, part investment textbook, and part folksy philosophy, all written by Buffett himself in clear, simple English. What is he really doing in these letters? He's not just reporting earnings. He is methodically building his brand and his moat. He openly admits his mistakes, which has the paradoxical effect of making you trust him completely. He patiently explains his investment philosophy, turning his shareholders from nervous investors into loyal, long-term partners who understand his strategy. And most importantly, he includes a section that is a thinly veiled advertisement. He writes about what a great permanent home Berkshire is for family-owned businesses. He is speaking directly to the 70-year-old owner of a great manufacturing company in Ohio who is thinking about selling. This letter is the single greatest deal-generating machine in business history. It's a fishing lure that he casts out into the world once a year, and it brings him a steady stream of exclusive, off-market deals. His second weapon is his carefully controlled television appearances. Buffett doesn't do 100 interviews on a dozen different channels. He has a preferred platform, a long-form, friendly interview with Becky Quick on CNBC. This is not an accident. By choosing one platform and one trusted interviewer, he ensures that his message gets out exactly the way he wants it, without being twisted or taken out of context. He uses these appearances strategically. During a market panic, he will go on TV and calmly explain why he is buying, projecting an aura of stability that can soothe the entire market. When he makes a big investment, he will go on and explain his reasoning, essentially providing a free masterclass in his thinking. He is not answering questions. He is delivering a sermon from the most powerful pulpit in the financial world. His third weapon is the annual shareholder meeting, the Woodstock for capitalists. This is pure marketing genius. He has transformed a boring corporate requirement into a 3-day festival that attracts 40,000 of his most loyal followers to Omaha. They don't just come for the business meeting. They come to shop at discounted prices at Berkshire's companies, to participate in a 5K run, and, most of all, to sit for 6 hours and watch Warren and Charlie eat peanut brittle and answer questions from their adoring fans. The entire event is a brilliant piece of theater designed to reinforce the brand, to build a community, and to turn shareholders into disciples. It creates a cult of personality so powerful that his investors are willing to stick with him through thick and thin, giving him the permanent capital base that is the envy of the financial world. Buffett hopes you never learn this secret because it pulls back the curtain on the humble grandpa act. It shows a shrewd and calculating media strategist who understands that in the information age, the person who controls the story wins. He is not just reacting to the news, he is the news. He has built a direct-to-consumer media channel that bypasses the traditional gatekeepers and allows him to speak directly to his audience of investors, business owners, and the public. It is one of Berkshire Hathaway's most valuable and most invisible assets. Chapter 23: The Secret of the 1-Foot Bar. The world of high finance is obsessed with proving how smart it is. It's a world of complexity. Wall Street hires PhDs in physics and mathematics to build mind-bendingly complex trading algorithms. They create financial instruments called derivatives that are so complicated, even the people who sell them don't fully understand them. They write 100-page research reports filled with jargon and equations. The entire industry is a giant contest to see who can build and jump over the highest, most difficult bar. And then there's Warren Buffett, 1,000 miles away, looking for a bar that's only 1 foot off the ground, a bar that he can just step over without even trying. His 23rd secret, a philosophy he learned from his partner, Charlie Munger, is the relentless and disciplined search for the 1-foot bar. The secret is this: Buffett's genius is not in his ability to solve difficult business problems. His genius is in his ability to avoid them entirely. He is not looking for challenges. He is not looking to prove he is the smartest person in the room. He is looking for businesses that are so simple, so obvious, and so wonderful that a complete idiot could run them. Because, as he likes to say, sooner or later, an idiot will. Think about the businesses he owns. Coca-Cola. It's sugar water. The recipe has barely changed in 100 years. The business model is simple. Make it for a few cents, sell it for over $1, and repeat billions of times a day. See's candies. It's chocolate. People buy it on holidays. The business model hasn't changed in 90 years. BNSF Railway. It's a train on a track. It moves stuff from point A to point B. It is a business that a 19th century robber baron would understand perfectly. Dairy Queen. It's ice cream and burgers. It is not complicated. Now, compare this to the kinds of businesses that Wall Street loves to chase. They love complex technology companies with rapidly changing products. They love biotech companies where the entire future rests on the outcome of a single FDA trial. They love complex financial companies that are a black box of leverage and derivatives. These are 7-foot bars. They require brilliant management, perfect timing, and a lot of luck to clear. And even then, the bar might be raised to 8 feet next year. Buffett's entire strategy is designed to remove the need for brilliance. By focusing on simple, understandable businesses, he gains several huge advantages. First, he is far less likely to be surprised. A simple business like a railroad is not going to be disrupted overnight by a new invention in a garage in Silicon Valley. Its future is far more predictable. Second, it makes his margin of safety, secret number 14, much more reliable. Because he can understand the business so well, his calculation of its intrinsic value is much more likely to be accurate. When you're dealing with a complex biotech company, your valuation is just a wild guess. When you're valuing a business that sells chocolate, it's a much more grounded calculation. And third, it protects him from bad management. A truly great business, a business with a powerful moat and a simple model, can survive even mediocre leadership. A complex, high-wire act business requires a genius CEO just to stay alive. Buffett is trying to stack the deck so completely in his favor that he wins even with a bad hand. He hopes you never learn this secret because it is an insult to the entire culture of Wall Street. It suggests that all their complexity, all their brain power, all their fancy algorithms are not just unnecessary, but are actually a handicap. It's the secret that says you don't have to be a rocket scientist to be a great investor. In fact, it helps if you're not. You just need the humility to admit that you're not a genius, and the discipline to only play games that are ridiculously easy to win. While everyone else is training for the high jump, Buffett is stepping over the 1-foot bar, collecting his gold medal, and going home early. Chapter 24. The secret of his favorite business partner, Uncle Sam. Warren Buffett has a favorite business partner. This partner is the most powerful, most reliable, and most deep-pocketed entity in the world. This partner has the power to print its own money, to regulate competition, and to guarantee that some of his businesses can never fail. This partner is the United States government. His 24th, and perhaps most controversial secret, is that Warren Buffett is not just a passive believer in the American dream. He is a master strategist who has brilliantly and deliberately positioned Berkshire Hathaway to be a prime beneficiary of the power, stability, and financial might of the U.S. government. Publicly, Buffett's bet on America is framed as a simple, patriotic optimism. But in practice, it is a cold, calculated business strategy. A huge portion of Berkshire Hathaway's value is tied up in businesses that are not just in America, but are intrinsically linked to the government. Let's start with his two biggest wholly owned businesses, BNSF Railway and Berkshire Hathaway Energy. These are not normal free market companies. They are quasi-monopolies operating in heavily regulated industries. The government plays a huge role in their success. For the railroad, the government grants it the land rights and protects it from excessive competition. It is a vital national asset, and both Buffett and the government know it. For his energy and utility businesses, the relationship is even more explicit. State governments grant his companies exclusive rights to sell electricity in a certain area. In exchange, the government regulates the prices they can charge, essentially guaranteeing them a reasonable and steady profit. He has willingly traded the unlimited upside of a high-flying tech company for the government-guaranteed stability of a utility. He's not just buying a business, he's buying a government-sanctioned profit stream. Then there is his role as the fireman during the 2008 crisis. As we discussed, his investments in Goldman Sachs and Bank of America were legendary. But what was he really betting on? Was he betting on the genius of the bankers who had just driven the world to the brink of collapse? No, he was making a very simple bet. He was betting that the United States government would not allow its largest and most important banks to fail. He knew that the Treasury and the Federal Reserve would print whatever amount of money was necessary to save the system. He was not investing alongside the market. He was investing alongside the government. He was using his private capital, but he was being backstopped by the public purse. It was the ultimate heads I win, tails the government bails me out trade. And finally, consider his more recent moves. Berkshire Hathaway Energy has become one of the largest investors in renewable energy in the country, pouring billions into wind and solar projects. Is this just because Warren Buffett is an environmentalist? No, it's because the U.S. government provides enormous tax credits and subsidies for these projects. These tax credits are so valuable that they directly reduce Berkshire's tax bill on its other profits by billions of dollars. He has found a way to have the American taxpayer directly subsidize the growth of his energy empire. This secret is not about anything illegal or even unethical. It is about a level of strategic thinking that few people ever consider. Buffett understands that the most powerful force in any economy is the government. Instead of fighting it or ignoring it, he has made it his silent partner. He has chosen to invest heavily in the sectors where the government's interests and his own are perfectly aligned. He hopes you never fully understand this secret because it complicates the clean story of the brilliant stock picker who just bets on great American companies. It shows a much more sophisticated operator, a political economist who understands that the rules of the game are just as important as the players. He has positioned his fortress not on an open field, but right next to the biggest, strongest fort in the world, knowing that its walls will also protect him. Chapter 25. The Secret of Being Long-Term Greedy. Greed, in the world of finance, is usually a short-term game. It's the hedge fund manager trying to make a killing on a quarterly earnings report. It's the corporate raider who buys a company, fires half the workforce, and sells it for parts. It's about getting the most money in the shortest amount of time, no matter who gets hurt. Warren Buffett is, by any measure, one of the most successful capitalists in history. He is driven by a desire to accumulate wealth, but his greed is different. It's a patient, methodical, and far more powerful form of greed. His 25th secret is the art of being long-term greedy. It's the philosophy of foregoing a quick and easy dollar today in order to build a machine that will generate $1,000 for decades to come. And the fuel for this machine is his single most valuable and most carefully guarded asset, his reputation. In the short-term game of Wall Street, reputation is often seen as a liability. Being nice or fair means leaving money on the table. But Buffett plays a different game, a game with an infinite time horizon. And in that game, a sterling reputation is not a cost. It is the ultimate currency. Let's see how it works. We've talked about how he buys businesses from families. When a family decides to sell the company they've spent their entire life building, it's an emotional decision. If they sell to a typical private equity firm, they know what's coming: layoffs, cost-cutting, and a quick flip for a profit. When they sell to Warren Buffett, they know they are selling to a permanent home. He has spent 60 years building a reputation as a buyer who pays a fair price, closes the deal quickly with no nonsense, and then leaves the management alone to do what they do best. This reputation for being a good guy is actually a ruthless business weapon. Why? Because it means he gets to see deals that no one else does. Hundreds of great private businesses come to him first, willingly, because they trust him. He doesn't have to participate in competitive auctions where the winner always overpays. His reputation allows him to bypass the entire Wall Street machine and create his own private pipeline of exclusive, profitable deals. He gives up a few percentage points on the purchase price today to ensure he has a steady flow of great companies to buy for the next 50 years. That is long-term greedy. His reputation was also the asset he cashed in during the 2008 crisis. When Goldman Sachs and Bank of America were on the ropes, they didn't just need his money, they needed his name. His reputation was the ultimate stamp of approval, the signal to the rest of the world that it was safe to invest again. He had spent a lifetime building up this reservoir of public trust. And at the moment of maximum crisis, he was able to convert that trust into billions of dollars in profit. He was greedy enough to spend 50 years patiently building an asset that no one else was focusing on. This philosophy extends to how he avoids deals. He has famously said, "Lose money for the firm, and I will be understanding. Lose a shred of reputation for the firm, and I will be ruthless." He has walked away from countless deals that looked profitable on paper, but involved people he didn't trust or business practices that were questionable. He knows that a single bad headline, a single scandal, can damage a reputation that took a lifetime to build. He is protecting his most valuable asset, his golden goose. He hopes you never learn this secret because it exposes the short-sightedness of modern corporate culture. The world is obsessed with quarterly profits and immediate results. Buffett's secret is that true, lasting wealth is built by playing a different game. It's about understanding that trust, integrity, and a good name are not soft, feel-good concepts. They are hard, strategic assets. They are the invisible engine behind the most powerful money-making machine in history. What looks like old-fashioned Midwestern decency is actually the most cunning and effective form of long-term capitalism the world has ever seen. Chapter 26. The Secret of the Relentless Drip. In our world of instant gratification, we are obsessed with the explosion. We want the overnight success, the viral video, the stock that doubles in a week. We are drawn to drama, to massive, sudden change. But Warren Buffett has built one of the world's greatest fortunes on a force that is the exact opposite of an explosion. It is a force that is quiet, boring, and almost invisible from one day to the next. His 26th secret is his profound love and respect for the power of the relentless drip. He is not a hunter of lightning strikes. He is a collector of leaky faucets, knowing that over 50 years, a single, steady drip can fill an ocean. This secret is about his focus on businesses that generate consistent, predictable, and ever-growing streams of cash. It's not about spectacular growth. It's about absolute reliability. When Berkshire Hathaway receives cash, either from the dividends paid by its public stocks or from the profits of the businesses it owns completely, that cash is the lifeblood of the empire. It is the water that fills the basin of his perpetual money machine. While other investors are focused on the stock price, Buffett is focused on the cash flow. The stock price is Mr. Market's opinion. The cash flow is the reality. Look at his portfolio. It is filled with these relentless drip machines. Coca-Cola. For over 60 consecutive years, it has increased the dividend it pays to shareholders. Every 3 months, like clockwork, a massive check from Coca-Cola arrives in Berkshire's bank account. It is a steady, reliable drip of cash that has grown year after year. American Express. The same story. A consistent, growing dividend, a drip of capital he can then use for other things. These are not exciting, high-flying stocks. They are mature, stable, cash-gushing giants. His wholly owned businesses are even more powerful examples. His utility and energy companies are the ultimate drip machines. Every month, millions of customers pay their electricity bills. It is one of the most predictable revenue streams on Earth. People will stop buying new cars and fancy clothes before they stop turning on the lights. This creates a river of cash that flows into Omaha with the certainty of a law of physics. The railroad is the same. As long as the American economy is functioning, goods will be moved from one place to another, and BNSF will be there to collect its toll, generating billions in steady cash, a constant drip into Berkshire's coffers. This is a secret that is completely at odds with the modern investing mindset. The media and Wall Street don't celebrate the slow, steady drip. They celebrate the geyser. They want to tell you about the next Tesla or the next Amazon, companies with explosive stock price growth. But for every Tesla, there are 1,000 failures. Buffett is not trying to find a one geyser in a desert of failures. He is trying to own all the leaky faucets in the city, knowing that their combined, steady flow will be more powerful in the long run. This philosophy is the reason he is so comfortable sitting on massive piles of cash. He knows that he doesn't have to force an investment. The drips are always coming. His businesses are always generating more cash. His pipeline is always refilling itself. This gives him the incredible psychological advantage of never having to act out of desperation. He can wait for the fat pitch, knowing that his cash pile is growing larger every single day from the thousands of little drips flowing in from his vast collection of businesses. He hopes you never learn this secret because it's boring. It's the financial equivalent of watching paint dry. It requires a mindset that can appreciate the quiet power of compound interest over the loud excitement of speculation. But this secret reveals a profound truth about wealth. Spectacular, one-time gains are often a matter of luck. But the relentless, patient, and disciplined accumulation of steady cash flow is a matter of strategy. It's the slow, steady, dripping force that can wear away mountains and build empires. Chapter 27. The Secret of His Billion-Dollar Mistakes. For every legendary investment Warren Buffett has made, there is a ghost. It is the ghost of the even bigger investment he could have made, but didn't. It is the ghost of the rocket ship he watched take off from the launch pad while he stood on the ground with his hands in his pockets. This collection of missed opportunities is what's known as his anti-portfolio. And his 27th secret is one of the most profound of all. His relationship with these massive mistakes of omission is not one of regret, but one of quiet satisfaction. His biggest failures, in a strange way, are a secret key to his success. Over the years, Buffett has openly admitted to a string of these colossal errors. The biggest one, by his own admission, was Google. In the early 2000s, he and Charlie Munger saw firsthand how powerful Google's advertising business was. Their own subsidiary, Geico, was a huge customer, paying Google $10 every time someone clicked on their ad. They knew it was a brilliant business, a toll road on the internet, and they did nothing. Today, that missed investment would be worth hundreds of billions of dollars. Then there was Amazon. He watched Jeff Bezos build one of the most dominant companies in history, a company with a massive moat in both e-commerce and cloud computing. He admired Bezos. He understood the business, and he did nothing. He has called himself an idiot for not investing. He also missed out on Microsoft, a company started by his good friend Bill Gates. He understood its monopoly power and operating systems, but he stayed away. The list goes on. So why does he do it? Why does he let these generational opportunities slip through his fingers? The secret is that his entire investment system is not designed to catch every winner. His system is designed to guarantee that he never invests in a catastrophic loser. He has said that in investing, it's not the errors of omission that kill you. It's the errors of commission. It's the dumb thing you do that leads to ruin, not the brilliant thing you don't do. His strict adherence to his rules, staying within his circle of competence, insisting on a massive margin of safety, is a protective shield. That shield is so strong that it will inevitably block some golden opportunities from getting through. To invest in Google in the early 2000s, he would have had to step outside of his circle of competence. He couldn't confidently predict where it would be in 10 or 20 years. So the rules said no. To invest in Amazon, he would have had to get comfortable with a company that was famously unprofitable for years, which violated his principles of buying businesses with proven earning power. So the rules said no. He is perfectly, rationally, and emotionally okay with this trade-off. He knows that for every Google he misses, his rules also save him from 100 other .com flameouts. For every Amazon he passes on, he also avoids 100 other speculative growth stocks that crash and burn. He is willing to sacrifice the potential for spectacular gains in order to absolutely ensure his own survival. It's the ultimate game of defense. He is not trying to score 100 points. He is trying to make sure the other team never scores at all, knowing that his own steady drips of cash will eventually win the game. This is a secret that is almost impossible for most people to accept. Our brains are wired to feel the pain of regret. The fear of missing out, or FOMO, is one of the most powerful and destructive emotions in investing. It's what causes people to pile into speculative bubbles at the very top, right before they burst. Buffett has managed to surgically remove that part of his brain. He feels no emotional pain for missing Google. He sees it as the logical and correct outcome of a system that is working exactly as it was designed to. He hopes you never learn this secret because it is the ultimate form of emotional discipline. It's the secret of being at peace with missed opportunities. It is the quiet confidence of knowing that the cost of protecting your fortress from fatal mistakes is that you will occasionally have to watch a parade of riches march right past your gate. And you will just smile, wave, and go back to counting your gold. Chapter 28: The Secret of the Tiny Office. Imagine you are the CEO of one of the largest and most complex companies in the world. A company with over 380,000 employees operating in dozens of completely different industries, from railroads and insurance to jewelry and ice cream. A company worth over $500 billion. What would your corporate headquarters look like? You would probably imagine a giant, gleaming skyscraper, a glass tower filled with thousands of people. You'd picture floors of analysts, strategists, human resources professionals, and corporate communications teams. Now, let's look at the reality of Berkshire Hathaway. Its world headquarters, the nerve center of this vast empire, is a single floor in a nondescript office building in Omaha, Nebraska. The total number of people who work there? About 25. That's not a typo. 25 people. This tiny office is the clue to Warren Buffett's 28th and perhaps most radical secret of management. It is a philosophy he calls delegation to the point of abdication. He has built a $500 billion empire by doing almost no managing at all. When Berkshire Hathaway buys a company, almost nothing changes. There is no army of consultants from Omaha that descends on the new subsidiary. There are no synergy meetings, no integration plans, no thick binders of corporate policies. The company's CEO, who was running the business yesterday, is the same CEO who is running it today. And they will continue to run it with almost zero interference from Warren Buffett. You might get a phone call from them once a year. His only real instruction to them is simple. Run your business as if you own 100% of it, and you're going to own it for the rest of your life. And call me if you need me. This is the opposite of how virtually every other large corporation in the world is run. Most companies are built on a command and control structure. They are obsessed with synergy, with centralizing functions like HR and accounting to save money. They believe that the smart people at headquarters should be making the big decisions. Buffett believes this is a recipe for disaster. He knows that he is not an expert in making candy, selling furniture, or running a railroad. The people who are the experts are the ones already running those businesses. His job is not to tell them what to do. His job is to hire the right people and then get out of their way. This radical decentralization is a secret weapon that allows him to attract a very specific type of talent. Great entrepreneurs, people who build a business from scratch, are often fiercely independent. The last thing they want is to sell their life's work and then have some MBA from headquarters telling them how to run it. Buffett offers them a deal no one else can. Cash in your chips, secure your family's fortune, but keep your life's work and your autonomy. This turns Berkshire into the buyer of choice for the best family-owned businesses in the world. But this system does something even more important. It frees up Warren Buffett's own time and mental energy to focus on the one job that he believes is his most important: capital allocation. Because he is not bogged down in the day-to-day operations of his hundreds of subsidiaries, he can spend 80% of his time, even in his 90s, just sitting in his office and reading and thinking. He is thinking about where to deploy the massive amounts of cash that his businesses generate. Should he buy another company? Should he buy more Apple stock? Should he expand the energy business? That is his only real job. He is not the CEO of a conglomerate. He is the chief capital allocator for a giant, tax-efficient investment fund that just happens to look like a corporation. He hopes you never learn this secret because it is a direct indictment of the bloated, bureaucratic nature of modern corporate America. It suggests that most of what happens in those giant, gleaming headquarters is a waste of time and money. It's the secret that says the best management is often no management at all. It is a profound act of trust in the people you hire, and an equally profound act of humility about the limits of your own abilities. Chapter 29. The secret of his final investment. For decades, there was one question that dominated every conversation about Berkshire Hathaway. It was the elephant in the room at every annual meeting. What happens when Warren is gone? The company is so completely identified with one man that the idea of it continuing without him seemed impossible. The market worried that when the Oracle of Omaha finally passed from the scene, the magic would disappear and the company would crumble. This fear was Berkshire's biggest risk, and Warren Buffett's 29th secret is how he has spent the last 20 years of his life meticulously planning to solve this very problem. His final and greatest investment has not been in a stock or a company. It has been an investment in a system, a culture, and a group of people designed to make himself obsolete. The secret is that Buffett is trying to institutionalize his brain. He knows that he, the man, is mortal, but he believes that his philosophy, his rational, long-term, value-oriented approach to business can be made immortal. He is trying to hardwire his thinking into the very DNA of the company he built. His plan has several key parts. The first was to separate his own job into different roles. He realized that no single person could replace him because he was doing several jobs at once. So he broke it down. He appointed two of his top operating managers, Greg Abel and Ajit Jain, to oversee all of Berkshire's non-insurance and insurance businesses, respectively. Abel was later named his official successor as CEO. Their job is to manage the existing businesses and make sure the trains are running on time. This freed Buffett up to focus on his true love, investing. The second part was to find his investment successors. For this, he did something brilliant. He hired two younger, successful hedge fund managers, Todd Combs and Ted Weschler. But he didn't just hand them the keys. He started them off with a small amount of money to manage, just a few $1 billion each. He wanted to see how they performed, but more importantly, he wanted to see if they could absorb the Berkshire culture. Over the last decade, they have proven themselves. They have gradually taken on more and more of Berkshire's investment portfolio. They're the ones who will be managing the giant pile of cash when Buffett is no longer there. But the most important part of his plan is the culture. He has spent 60 years building a company that is decentralized, that values trust and rationality, and that thinks in terms of decades, not quarters. He has hammered this message home in every annual letter, at every annual meeting. He has attracted a base of shareholders who are not speculators, but long-term partners who believe in this philosophy. He has created a board of directors, including his own son, Howard, whose primary job is to act as the guardian of this culture. He has effectively built a fortress of values and principles around the company, designed to repel the short-term pressures of Wall Street long after he is gone. This is his ultimate act of long-term thinking. He is not just planning for the next 5 years. He is planning for the next 50 years. He is trying to create a company that can continue to compound capital for generations. He knows that the people he has chosen will not be him. They won't have his folksy charm or his legendary reputation, but he doesn't need them to be him. He just needs them to follow the blueprint he has spent a lifetime creating. He hopes you never think too much about this secret, because it's a story about mortality, about the end of an era. But it is also a story about legacy. It reveals that his final act of genius is not a brilliant investment, but a humble admission that he is not a god. He is a teacher, and the ultimate test of any great teacher is whether the students can succeed after the teacher has left the classroom. Chapter 30. The secret that was never secret. We have spent this entire journey together on a quest to uncover the 30 secrets Warren Buffett hopes you never learn. We've explored the dark arts of corporate finance, the psychological tricks of a master persuader, and the brilliant architecture of a perpetual money machine. But now we arrive at the final and most important secret of all. It is the secret that unlocks everything else. And it is the one that has been hiding in plain sight this entire time. The 30th secret is this: there are no secrets. Not a single one. Every single principle we have discussed today by wonderful businesses insist on a margin of safety. Think like a business owner, be patient, read a lot. He has not hidden these ideas in a locked vault. He has done the exact opposite. He has openly, cheerfully, and repeatedly shared them with the world in his annual letters, in books, in interviews for over 50 years. The entire blueprint for his success is available for free to anyone who cares to look. So, if the secrets are not secrets, then what is the real secret? Why isn't everyone who has read his letters a billionaire? The real secret, the one that truly matters, is that while Buffett's methods are simple to understand, they're almost impossible for a normal human being to execute. The secret is not what he knows. The secret is how he behaves. His entire system is a war against basic human nature, a rebellion against the very instincts that are hardwired into our brains. Think about it. We are wired for action. Sitting still and doing nothing, secret number one. While others are getting rich feels like torture. We are wired to be part of a social group. Standing apart from the crowd, secret number 15. And looking foolish during a bubble is psychologically brutal. We are wired for instant gratification. Thinking in terms of decades, not days, secret number 25, is a superpower in a world that can't wait for a text message response. We are wired with a fear of missing out. Being at peace with letting massive winners like Google and Amazon pass you by, secret number 27, requires an almost Zen-like emotional control. This is the ultimate secret that hides in plain sight. The reason Buffett has been so successful is not because he has a secret formula. It's because he has mastered himself. He has identified the cognitive biases and emotional pitfalls that cause 99% of investors to fail, and he has built a system of rules, a philosophy, and an entire life designed to protect him from his own worst enemy, himself. And this is the secret he truly hopes you never learn. Not because he wants to keep you poor, but because if you truly learned it, you would have to confront a very uncomfortable truth. You would have to accept that the reason you may not be getting the financial results you want has nothing to do with not having the right stock tips or the right algorithm. It has everything to do with your own temperament, your own discipline, and your own patience. It is the secret that says the greatest obstacle to your wealth is not Wall Street. It's not the government. It's not the system. It's the person you see in the mirror every morning. So there you have it. 30 secrets that peel back the layers of the myth and reveal the man and the machine behind one of the world's greatest fortunes. We've seen that Warren Buffett is not just a stock picker. He is a psychologist, a business strategist, a media mogul, and a master architect of a system designed for one purpose: the relentless compounding of capital. The lessons are not about finance. They are about a deeper wisdom. They are about the power of simplicity in a complex world, the importance of patience in an impatient culture, and the ultimate victory of rationality over emotion. The blueprint has always been there, a gift to anyone willing to read it. The only real secret is whether we have the discipline to follow it. To see how his partner, Charlie Munger, provided the other half of this incredible philosophy, watch the video on your screen now.